Hello, everybody, and welcome to the McRADcast. Today, I've got a few people in here that I'm excited about. I've got Mr. Scott Bumpus.
Yo.
Rico Chisholm.
Yeah.
And Lolita Mason. There you go. I think I've just recently met all of you. I've known Scott, who you were, for a while. And I recently did the podcast with Matt Brown. So
Downtown Get Down.
The Downtown Get Down. Go check that out if you haven't already. Matt's a good friend of all of ours, and it's fun to do his stuff. So officially met you then, met Rico and Lolita as well through that. So I wanted to get you guys on the show, and really just...
I met Rico like a week ago.
Yeah. What's that, a leap year joke?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Oh, yeah, leap year. I don't know when this is going to release, but we are recording this on the 29th of February. So, yep. Scott, for those that don't know that are listening, is a local business owner. Am I saying that? Is that correct?
I do own a local business,
okay.
but that's cool too.
Okay. So, and most of you guys have probably heard of Bumpus Harley Davidson here in Jackson. And we kind of like to shine a light on local business.
Well, thanks, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You want to plug something there?
Yeah, I can. I myself have lived in Jackson since 1995. I moved up here, but my mom and dad are both Jackson natives. My mother's lived here since she was 2 years old. My dad was born and raised here. I've had people in the area going back into the early 1800s. So Jackson was always our home.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to pick a place that I would say that I'm from, Memphis is probably it. But I've now lived in Jackson in this area longer than any place else that I've been.
Rock and roll. Anything cool going down at Bumpus? I know this is
always, man.
Yeah.
It's we were busy as hell today. It's the last day of the month. I don't know when it's going to air, but today's Saturday. And it felt like the last day of the month, but it was warm and the sun was shining. And any of y'all that are in Denmark listening to this thing or not around here, it has rained like a mofo around here lately. And all it takes is a little bit of weather that wasn't, freezing ass cold and got people's blood pumping. And so it felt good today. It was fun. There's some days that aren't fun down there, but it was fun as hell today. So
yeah, and we are on. So we have a backlog of episodes as it stands. We don't release like every time we do one. Yeah. We're trying to kind of figure that out right now because this is new. But springtime is on the horizon.
It is.
So people are going to be on their motor scooters, and
it's you always heard about cold-blooded animals and warm-blooded animals. As soon as you start warming that up, well, that's the way that people are, especially coming out of winter. Mm-hmm. That honestly, if you get a weekend, it's supposed to be even prettier tomorrow.
Oh yeah.
By the way, if you get a weekend that's like this and it gets people's temperature, their core temperature raised a little bit, hell, it doesn't matter if it ices over and freezes next week. It's springtime now, so
yep.
Game on for us. This winter, it hadn't been a nasty one as far as ice and snow goes, but it's been a long one as far as mentally cold.
Yeah, absolutely.
Outside, so
well, it's been doing this thing, and I think this is where we live, and I say Tennessee, but it's in the American South these days. Is we'll have those extreme jumps in 20 degrees, then it's 50 degrees, then it's 30 degrees, then it's 60 degrees, and it's just back and forth. And so I don't mind winter.
It's why everybody's sick.
I don't mind winter. I just wish it would if it's going to be winter, be winter, and if it's going to be spring, be spring.
I like a change in the seasons. I couldn't live in Florida that was, either 70 or 90 through the year. And just like that, I wouldn't want to live in Nome, Alaska either. I've got to have a change in the temperature on there.
Southern California is one of those places, I think, that's always just...
Yeah, every time I've gone to San Diego, it's always 80 and beautiful, and there's nothing wrong with 80 and beautiful, but I want it to be 80 and beautiful during the time of the year that it's supposed to be 80 and beautiful.
Gives you that little something to look forward to, yeah.
Yep.
So, and Rico... I don't know if you want. Do you want to introduce and tell everybody about yourself, or do you just want to let it happen organically?
Just let it go.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear how you was going to introduce yourself.
I remember listening to Matt's podcast before I was on, and you had been on a couple episodes before me, I think, and I just remember thinking like I want to sit down with that guy. So it's and the podcast we did with you and Lolita. We had a good time. You actually dropped one of the most well-timed jokes I've ever. It was so good. It was
gotta refresh my memory.
It's a pretty terrible story.
They ain't near as funny afterwards.
Sure. And what I'll do is direct people to listen to the Downtown Get Down, the episode with Rico, myself, and Lolita. But basically, the story was guy's wife passed away after giving birth, and he had also knocked up another.
Oh yeah, that was her story.
Lady, yeah.
Oh, and I had a joke. Oh God.
So anyway, go revisit. We'll talk about it off air.
Everybody know I'm a piece of shit. So, yeah.
I don't think that's true at all, but
I'm being honest.
I had a customer today tell me one of the funnier dad jokes that I've ever heard before, and I just come out of the men's room, and I can tell this joke on here, can't I?
Oh yeah. Okay. We don't censor.
All right, y'all put it's not a big deal anyway. I come out of the men's room, and there's this customer that's standing out there. He's walking past, and he goes, "I don't like going in there." I said, "The men's room?" He goes, "Yeah." I said, "Okay." He goes, "It's where all the dicks hang out."
Wow. Yeah, that's
I got to laugh.
Oh yeah,
and he laughed, and I could tell he'd just been. This guy probably just walks past men's rooms hoping he gets a chance to tell that joke if somebody comes
just
out.
waiting for somebody to be there.
And I did, and I walked away from it, went and told somebody else. It was funny.
Yeah, I can't wait to get back to work Monday. So I can
Yeah. Got that one in the chamber.
Yeah.
There's times when people tell a joke or say something, and I'm like, how long have they been waiting for the opportunity to say,
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
They're so proud of themselves. So one thing that I've noticed online lately, because, nobody likes to share their opinion online, right?
Yeah.
So I saw the announcement maybe Thursday. I don't think it was Friday. Thursday, that we're going to get Snoop Dogg and Twista at the minor league ballpark here to play. And I was like, that's cool as hell, man. Because we had Nelly come through. I think it was a good show. Everybody, people turned out. Yeah. I was like, damn, Jackson's getting Snoop Dogg. So I was like, that's big. Major.
Yeah.
And it didn't take long.
I'm already laughing because I know
it didn't take long for people just to. It's really weird to me.
That sounds just like noise to me. I don't want to hear that kind of stuff.
Shut up, white lady.
And one of my favorite. So basically, what happened was everyone just started talking about why they weren't going to go or how they were, bummed out that it was happening. And I thought, like, I've never in my life saw that someone's come into town, even if it's someone I don't care for their music. I just don't go to the show. I don't talk about it.
Right.
And hey, do your thing, make your money. Like, I just don't understand there's this very, very transparent hate behind it, and people don't.
It's not that transparent either.
You think?
No, it's blatant.
Sure, there
It's
you go.
blatant,
There you go.
you know.
Because you actually, one of your comments made me laugh really hard. It was that some lady had commented that, well, I'm not going to go, but I'm not going to say why. And he was like, well, Karen, we know why.
Yeah, you know why.
Like, you don't. I bet you know who it was. That lady that got mad about your White People Wednesday.
No, she would definitely be at the Snoop concert.
You think so?
With backstage passes, with some knee pads on.
Oh my God, she gonna say
Snoop
a
gag.
prayer.
Oh yeah.
So, and it's funny because I think that's obviously going to draw an older crowd. Because I know people know who Snoop Dogg is.
Snoop was big when I was a sophomore in college.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I'm 48 years old, so I think the people who were listening to Snoop then were anywhere from freshmen in high school up to a few years older than me. So I think your core of Snoop's crowd, and Rico, you tested this too. I was never a big rap music fan during that time, but I knew it was all going on. I was behind in my years when Snoop Dogg came out. I was still listening to Public Enemy and stuff like that, which was way even prior to that. But I think his core of people that you're going to see there are going to be 45 to 55 years old.
Right.
But
like I said, I know people know who he is. It's an iconic name, but as far as musical relevance, he's not, he ain't top of the charts right now.
No, not right now.
He's got a pretty funny Instagram, and I follow him on that stuff. But I just remember my reaction being, "Damn, that's awesome! Like, hell yeah, Jackson's that's a cool show, right?"
Yep.
People just can't handle it. I hate it. I'm not going. Okay, no, and here's the thing about your opinion, and it's all of our opinion, is that at the end of the day, no one really cares.
Right.
Like when you're sitting around with your friends, you can, oh man, I don't really like, but to get on a public forum, to just hate on something, it's just so weird to me.
There was
life.
Yeah,
there was a lot of to do about the new seafood joint in town, which I've not been to yet. But a lot of the to do was about the fact they're playing rap music in there.
Yeah.
Is it the red?
The Red Hook.
Okay.
And
I'm not from here, so
oh yeah.
I just asked a question about it when we passed it today, and I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, okay. I got it.
Well, it's a franchise out of Memphis, I think. There's one.
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know if it's a franchise out of Memphis, but there's one down there.
Okay.
It's Bartlett. I think
There's one
I
in
saw
Bartlett,
it
yeah.
Memphis, Texas.
So my initial reaction to it was just the building it's going in. Historically,
Chesney's and yeah.
well, that was successful, but after
but
a certain
Chesney's
point,
was successful during a certain time period when everything hadn't moved out to the columns. And
right? So
north.
I feel like historically,
It's a kiss of death building.
yeah. So that was my concern. I didn't know anything about the business.
I would have more expected them to come in like the old O'Charlie's building or something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because that's still a decently busy.
That's
hub
still
right there.
Restaurant Row.
And
you
you
know.
got Red Bones,
Red Bones and,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
and Logan's and all that stuff still over there. Really.
So that was my thing. Was like just the location seems a little off, but yeah, that was the review that sparked this big thing, and it was it's that language that's very clear, but then here's my biggest problem. Like, if you have hate in your heart and you display it out in public, just own it at least. I'm still gonna think you're a piece of shit, but at least don't do that thing where you go like, oh. Because they said, "Oh, a bunch of thugs and a bunch of."
Yeah.
It's like you're using buzzwords that we clearly know what you're saying.
Right.
You've heard the term dog whistle before.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That's a dog whistle word. There's a bunch of dog whistles. You can do a whole show where we could talk about dog whistles.
Absolutely.
But you know what? Have you heard that term before about dog whistles? A dog whistle is something you can blow that only a dog can hear.
Right.
And when you start talking about, a restaurant with rap music and a bunch of thugs, what are you really hearing me talk about?
Right.
Rap music and a bunch of thugs.
Somebody finna get slapped in the mouth.
And it seems like there's just too many black folks at the new restaurant in town.
Wow.
That's the dog whistle that really going on.
It's the same kind of person.
And I would actually have more respect for the guy that came out. I ain't going up to the new restaurant. There's too many black folks up there. I'd respect that guy more than the one of the rap music was just far too loud in there, and me and Karen didn't.
It's a bunch of mayos there, ain't it?
Other end of the spectrum too.
So-
That's a different one.
So but everything I've heard a ton of reviews that were great. Said the food was really good. Said that everybody had a good time. So I would definitely want to check it out myself. But yeah, and that's another thing about Jackson's this anomaly when it comes to these things, because there could be so many cool things if people would support stuff and just get their head out of their ass about whatever it is. But and I hate to bring it back, but the Snoop Dogg thing, that's huge for Jackson.
Yeah, people always talking about it's nothing in Jackson to do, no good shows, but Snoop Dogg, of all people.
Willie Nelson has been there.
Yeah.
Bob Dylan has been there.
Saw that one.
Nelly was there, year before last? Jake Owen has come out and done a show. There's a lot going on in this town. Problem is this town, and I love it. I told you how long my people have been here. This is now home for me. It's fickle. Everybody will dig a concert coming in, but then after that, it's like, well, what's next?
Yeah.
What's next? What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do for me?
Sure.
Me now?
And this is something that I read an article about this. Not an article, it was more just a kind of a blog. It was in I'm going to get deep in this, but it was in a subreddit. I don't know if you're familiar with Reddit or not, but so I was in a subreddit, and it was just these comment posts, and it kind of evolved into this, someone kind of gave this dissertation on what they think's going on, right? Kind of societally, I guess, if that's even a word.
It is.
And it basically was saying that we've ultimately got it so good that we're having to generate problems. You know what I mean? We're having to kind of go all right, everything's pretty good, but there's something still in those people that still has to complain about something or still has to display some kind of anger or hate towards something.
Think about it like this. And we've had this talk about a lot of things when we talk about the news media. And I've heard it said before that, news media didn't used to be the way that it is. You had reporters and they'd tell you, and it wasn't biased this way or biased that way. You get the MSNBC people bitching about the Fox News people saying they're biased and vice versa, back and forth. And they said, no, in the old days, I saw a meme the other day that says, I wish Walter Cronkite came back because he wasn't biased. Well, and Walter Cronkite had, if you go back and, read about him, just using him as the example, he had extremely specific views.
Sure.
But he was reporting news facts for 1 hour a day. But that's when the news was. You had news at noon. You had news at 6 p.m. You had news at 10 p.m. So basically you had roughly 2 hours a day of news. that you could go out and say, this happened, this happened, this happened. We interviewed this person, they said this. We interviewed this person, they said this. And that was the news. And you heard what it was. It was a list of facts. And they said, well, later on it became, it was all opinions. Well, that's because they're trying to fill a 24-hour news cycle. There's not enough specific news to talk about. You still got 3 hours worth of news, but then you got another 21 hours worth of here's what that news means to me, and here's what I think, and blah, blah, blah. And now here's what you're talking about the way conversation is. We used to have conversation a lot, but we would have an hour worth of conversation here and an hour worth of conversation there. Now with a 24-hour conversation cycle through social media, we have to make shit up to fill in that other 20 hours. So now therefore we come up with whatever the flavor of the week happens to be. It could be coronavirus, it could be ice bucket challenge, it could be whatever happens to be popular or seemingly interesting to talk about at that time. And that's why we get thrown off the trail by bullshit real fast too.
Well, and to kind of give you an example of what I meant was and you're spot on with that. But the saying, like what I was saying, when we're in such a good time overall. When I say that, there's always room for improvement. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of shit that needs to be fixed. There's a lot of shit that needs to get better. But ultimately, we're living in a pretty good time in history, right? There was this British Good Morning Britain or something, and I see this clip, and I watch a ton of podcasts, and mostly comedian podcasts. So it's all, taking jabs at stuff and just trying to be lighthearted.
Very, very reverent things.
Yeah, right. And Good Morning Britain or whatever, it's the same as Good Morning America. You got your three hosts and they have these people on. And the whole bit was, now this is how much they didn't have to talk about. They had people on who said that clapping for like a performance, that was no good anymore because some people have anxiety and it can cause people to be super anxious and it can cause people to feel uncomfortable. So, do you know, this is great. Do you know what their solution to clapping was? So instead of clapping,
jazz hands.
Yes. So you know this.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Spirit fingers.
Yeah.
Scary fingers.
Hell no.
Jazz hands, right?
I don't want to be around that.
No one does.
That would get me anxiety.
That's what I said.
Nobody does.
I was like, that would just make me anxious to see a bunch of people doing jazz hands. Like, I'd be like,
There's like a video of it of some kind of convention out in California.
Oh, wow.
And it
So
was
they're already implementing it.
It was like an organic yogurt convention or something like that, and somebody won an award for organic yogurt. And you had all these hippie weirdos out there just.
Dude, I would.
And y'all
flip out.
y'all on the podcast can't see me going.
Shit. I can see it. Fuck that.
So, but that's what I'm talking about though. Is they're like, man, it's like everyone's side, like, all right, society's getting better at things, and then they're like, but that damn clapping, we can probably. You're like, what are you like? Your life is so good. That's your battle.
That's your bitch. Yeah,
that's the battle you picked.
I can't go out today because somebody might clap.
I can't take that seriously. I can't at all. Like, in my mind, they're still just trolling us.
Man, I was an 80s teenager, and the slow clap meant something.
Yeah.
Yes,
Damn,
indeed.
Justin, if I started slow clapping your ass, see, man, you're already getting excited now because you just did something big. And all of a sudden,
And everybody joins in.
Right.
I can't go. I can't slow jazz hand your ass up and get you to do nothing.
You're trying to get somebody's attention. You're like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Only negative thing I think I have about clapping is I can't use my clap in my bedroom when I'm having sex. It's like I'm at a fucking disco, lights going on and off and shit.
So you have one of the clapper? Is that what it's called? The clapper?
Yeah,
Clap on, clap off. Yeah.
But
Lolita, can you?
This is before her time.
Oh my god!
I quit using the clapper like
way before you, baby.
early
like-
2000s.
I wish that somehow we could capture the look on her face.
Because here's the
via
deal.
audio.
Hey, listen, the clapper don't know if you're banging hands together or,
Right.
or
He just
what's
heard the
banging.
clap.
Something's slapping. Yeah.
Slapper.
Baby,
Slap on, slap
Last
off.
night, the lights would have been going crazy.
Some epileptic would have fell out. Strobe light would have knocked him out.
That's the next step in clapper technology is to discern: is that hands clapping
Or is that
Ass
ass clapping?
Clapping is clapping.
the ass clapper?
Is it?
Listen, I don't want
To the
nothing about.
clapper,
I don't. When it comes to sex, I don't want no clap anywhere.
Oh yeah,
That's totally different.
that's old. Yeah, I think that's like is that an old school term? I don't hear people really
The
say
clap.
It. Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah.
I feel like that's pretty old school.
It's
I mean, I know
gone-
it.
yeah,
I knew.
yeah.
Well, I know it was. I know
I
it was
don't want
used
that
then.
either.
Don't want
You
none.
don't know what it is.
I said I don't want that.
No.
Oh,
No
Not
one
that
does.
kind of clap.
No,
but
there's plenty of clap still in Jackson.
Yeah, they might not use the term, but it's still alive and well.
Yeah. That lasted AIDS, I think. It was there first, and AIDS showed up and wrecked everything, and
Yep.
it moved on. The clap's still like, all right, still my neighborhood.
Right. Oh man.
then came chlamydia.
Yeah.
There's the other one.
So, yeah, but that we just get to this point where everything's like so good that you like it's like people are seeking it out now. It's like, what's the next thing? And I'm like, well, there are important things we can focus on here. Like clapping is not one of them. It's not even on the list. I was going to say it's the last thing on the list. It's not even there. Like once we've solved all the world's problems, if someone brings clapping up, you just exile them.
And I get there are some things that used to be fairly normal pieces of conversation and parts of society that haven't aged well,
Sure.
that we do move away from. We can talk specifics of that. Clapping ain't one of them.
No, yeah, I don't think. Yeah.
Clapping ain't one of them.
However, when people, there are moments where I'm like, why are they clapping at a movie theater? That's weird.
yeah, that's a no.
It's corny as hell, and I don't know what happens to make people like. I've seen some really badass movies in the theater, and been like, "Damn, that was good," but I've never been like,
You never
"Get
clapped
up
at the
here."
theater?
No, I can't do it.
Well, I think when some people really get into the movie, and it's like it depends. I think on what is going on in the movie. Like, let's just say if we'll say a woman being abused, and the movie is about the abuser. Okay, I'll give you. Let me just like what's love got to do with it?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Ike was whooping Tina's ass. Then when Tina decided that she was gonna turn around and whoop Ike's ass with the shoe, that's a clapping moment.
You
So,
clap.
Okay, I get you. Okay.
No, I ain't rolling with that.
I really like Ike. Ike should not have whooped Tina's ass. Let me go on the record. I'm not defending it. God damn, Ike Turner is a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, that's always so. That's like, okay. So that kind of just sparked something to me because I think about this a lot because of the
It's the same haircut that Davy Jones did from the Monkees. You notice that?
yeah. Holy shit! You know that meme
That's some
of
black history for your ass right there.
the meme of Ike
That's what you get for one extra day of February.
that have you seen the Ike meme where it's like
My woman ain't allowed.
the one that one was like, you're getting on my last nerve, like bitch, who getting on the rest of them?
When he's got this look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Y'all can't see that on the podcast, but it's this one.
So good point about that is there's a lot of people that we've found out in recent history who are famous. Some of them very good actors and things like that. Turns out they're pieces of shit.
Yeah.
So the question is, because someone we had kind of not an argument, it was just a discussion about how, and I'll just bring up a specific one just to give us a jumping off point, but like Kevin Spacey, like we find out that. Whoa!
Did we not have this conversation the other day?
But here's where the question came in was, can you still appreciate that person's art because you're going to see them on screen and go like, damn, but can you deny the like roles they played?
Well, most of your favorite artists in their private lives, they are pieces of shit. Like Miles Davis, he was a pimp, womanizer. He beat women, but he put out some of the best music you'll ever hear.
Yeah.
So,
but I guess making them famous doesn't make them good people.
Sure.
So
Yeah, nor should it. I think the question is I wouldn't hang out with none of y'all if y'all were complete pieces of shit. Okay.
Yeah.
I try to keep pieces of shit away from my life. But that said, what do I love about Kevin Spacey? Is it him as a person, or is it his book of work?
Very good point. Because what I used to say is people would say like, I met insert musician here, and man, he was an asshole. And I used to always say, well, I don't really listen to the music about and think about what kind of person that is.
Right.
When I listen to, because you always hear about like some of the older ones, like, I'm trying to think of a good example of people that just, oh, that guy's an asshole, but it was like, well, they put out really good music, so
R. Kelly.
there you go.
No.
See,
No.
but
See,
hang on.
see.
That
That's an
brings
exception.
something up, though.
Where do you draw the line?
Where do you draw the line?
Yep.
Rico and I got into a discussion the other day, and Michael Jackson came into it.
Sure.
And where do you draw the line between the king of pop and, for the purpose of the conversation, Rico,
Go ahead.
he fucked them kids, okay, or slept naked with them? I'm not going to say that it looked bad, but it looked bad. All right, where do you draw the line? Does Michael Jackson, if I stop short of saying he was a pedophile, did some very pedophilia things? Does that take away from the King of Pop and Thriller and Bad and all that kind of stuff?
Because I mean, I think we can all probably agree. I don't want to decide for you, but Thriller, probably one of the best albums of all time.
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
just being real. But yeah, but I get what you're saying. It's like what, and you know, like kind of when you look at his past, it's almost like you not get it, because that makes me feel like I'm like, oh yeah, anyone could do that. That's not what I mean. But what I mean is there's psychologically there's some reasoning behind it, right?
Yep.
Now, with that being said, it's inexcusable if it happened, right? And I don't know enough about that particular situation. I've watched the movie and all that, and I know what people were saying, but there's a lot of conflicting things, and there's no concrete evidence, and you gotta. I don't want to like not believe people, but it's also like, you know, I don't know. That's a tricky one. That's a tricky one.
But it still goes to that point, though, is where is that line drawn? So we can talk from people who, from sexual perversions to their views on race and women, to, because you can have that same kind of conversation right now. Is it okay for, so if we're talking on let's use the Michael Jackson thing, so yeah, but I know that happened, but look how good Thriller was. So you got that argument. Because I'm going to tell you, I hear that constantly about the he who occupies the White House right now. Yeah, I know that he's a womanizer and he's misogynist and he's racist, but look at how good things are with the president. Where do you
Fake
draw the
news.
line of what's acceptable?
Sure. So, and I think that's a big difference too in the sense that Michael Jackson wasn't in charge of, he wasn't the leader of the free world. He was definitely a hugely influential figure, but for me it was almost like this, not a moral dilemma. It's not. I mean, I never doubted that, in that moment, like, am I a bad person? But it's like, can I enjoy that art and still think, well, yeah, what a piece of shit. I think you can. I think that you can.
Because we can. Rico said it a minute ago. You're going to be hard pressed to find anybody who's clean.
Right.
I love Led Zeppelin.
Sure.
Love Led Zeppelin. There's also plenty of accounts of horrible things Jimmy Page did to underage girls in those hotel rooms.
Yeah. There was also, we can just go on and really blow the lid off of that stuff too, is like as early as like the 80s and 90s, there was a lot of stuff in music that was like very like, oh, you look back and you're like, oh Jesus, like lyrically, and I'm not saying that every song is true to life or whatever. I mean, I get that, but
that goes back to things that are not as again. I believe that some things just did not age well. We're not talking about clapping, but we're talking about some things that didn't age well. I told you earlier, I'm a child of the 80s. Oh shit! One of the John Hughes movies, 16 Candles.
I've
one
talked
of the
about this.
big movies of the 1980s. If they made 16 Candles now, they would blow the theater up, because that movie is real rapey.
yeah, you have that particular scene where it's
Real
like
rapey.
chick's passed out, and he's like, you can.
Hey, you can go ahead. Yeah, she's drunk and passed out. Go ahead and get you a piece.
I haven't seen that movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
most part,
listen,
for the most
it's a
part,
John Hughes movie.
yeah.
It's fantastic. It's a snapshot of the 80s. It's really entertaining. But even now, when I watch it now, I go, ugh, it skeeves me a little bit at the end of it.
You know one of my favorites that does that? Revenge of the Nerds. Man.
We've had this talk, I think
Raped
so.
in the Nerds.
Yeah.
Somebody got raped in Revenge of the
Well, yeah,
Nerds?
they break into that house and put all the cameras in. It's like they're, spying on.
And then
Girls
the
being
one
naked
where
or
he
whatever.
puts on the Halloween costume thing,
Yeah.
and she thinks it's her boyfriend. He goes in there and knocks him off a piece.
Right.
And she thinks it's her boyfriend because he got the mask on. And then and the whole premise was like he was so good at it that she was like, "Oh, I'm fine with it." You're like, "That's not how that works." Like if you came up there and it wasn't the person that was expected, you were gonna get.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah.
So if the lights, all right.
So
here's
she was
the
thinking
picture.
that it was her boyfriend. So in other words,
I remember the scene. Yeah.
So you don't think it's
here's
rape?
Here's the picture.
No, because
Lolita's laying in the bed. It's pitch ass black. She thinks that you're fixing to come in the room and you're going to stick your finger someplace. It's a really good podcast. And listen.
We keep it classy, folks.
You stayed in the den watching television. You didn't go in there, and somebody else walked in there and stuck a finger someplace. It's dark. She didn't realize it wasn't you, and she was cool with it. Thought it was you. Then the lights come on. She goes, "Oh, that wasn't Rico. Ooh, that was a good finger. So it's cool." No, that ain't cool.
Yep.
That ain't cool, and that's what happened in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yeah. And it was just like passed off like, yeah, it's just.
That's the worst story ever.
Yeah, that was fucked up.
That's called perspective.
I ain't gonna be able to stick my finger nowhere tonight.
You gonna have you a flashlight?
Shit.
Just leave the lights on.
Yeah, don't even turn them on. Oh my goodness. So, but yeah, there's this, and I mean, if we're being real here in America, if you just go back 45 to 50 years, there's pretty much, you could argue that everyone was a piece of shit. I mean, that's a whole different thing. But I mean, if you really go back to that time, like
free love and all that shit.
Well, I'm just talking, I mean, the way that we treated people of color in just that time frame.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the movie 48 Hours. Mm-hmm. Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. Mm-hmm. And, okay, who was the bad guy in 48 Hours?
The first one?
Yeah.
I can't think of his
name. It was
name.
Gans. It was one of the guys that broke out of jail.
That's right.
The good guys, Eddie Murphy and Nick Nolte. Nick Nolte constantly was inwarding Eddie Murphy and this and that and piece of shit and
treating him like
shit. And not just because he's a convict, but in really, white trash, white supremacist, racist ways. But that was also in 1982 when it was still fairly acceptable for him to do that because he was doing it in it. He wasn't wearing a Klan hood. Okay, that couldn't come out now.
Sure,
that way.
Yeah.
No way.
And I mean, you can.
And I'm not someone who's hearkening for old days either. I'm not beating that up, saying, "Well, you can't even call a black guy the N-word these days." No, I'm not that guy. But the point of it is things. Our level of what's acceptable, because by the way, we can get away with things now that we couldn't get away with then. There's a handoff.
I bet you Quentin Tarantino could do it.
Quentin Tarantino does it through.
I understand most of his stuff is like period pieces, but I'm pretty sure he could do like a modern film today. And
well, he has there's the scene in Pulp Fiction where they after he shoots the kid in the face. Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face. That part,
yeah.
And he brings him to Quentin Tarantino's house,
right?
And it wasn't obviously it was whatever his character's name was. Do you see a sign in the yard that says "dead storage"?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? So I mean,
But the thing is, the context of a Tarantino movie is very different, though. That is part of what he is doing is to show the absurdity.
Yes,
of
absolutely.
the language, too.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the same. I think it's obviously completely different styles, but it's the same way that Mel Brooks used to write. And Blazing Saddles. People say Blazing Saddles couldn't come out today, and maybe it couldn't.
But
did you see that movie, Rico?
Blazing Saddles. Have you never seen it?
It's been so long.
Where the white women at?
Right.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
The sheriff is near.
What you say?
I said, Dr. President, the sheriff is near.
But that's a great movie. You know what I mean?
But here's what's interesting, though. When we start talking about, and I'm not one of these guys that says, well, people are too sensitive now. People, they get real worried about a movie. Let's say 48 Hours. Couldn't do 48 Hours again because Nick Nolte called Eddie Murphy using N-words and all this. And they say you can't do that because the racial overtones of that are not acceptable now. But you can come out with a movie like, and I'm going to talk about it, The Help. Okay? Mm-hmm. Now, everybody says, oh, The Help is such a feel-good movie. And I really want to hear some perspective from y'all on this. Because here's what I gather from The Help is all it takes to fix racism is one nice white girl.
Right.
And I'm the nice white girl, and therefore I like black people, so racism is not a problem. And now white folks, y'all can feel good about black folks because this white girl does like them, and she's nice, and they laugh at each other.
I've never seen that movie.
You know what I'm talking about?
I know what you're talking about. I'm from Jackson, Mississippi.
All right. Well, listen, and that comes up in a lot of different movies. What was the one with Matthew McConaughey and Samuel L. Jackson? When he's a lawyer, Time to Kill.
Time to Kill.
Time to Kill.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? Matthew McConaughey cures racism when he shows up and gets the black guy off for killing the Klans guy. That's the kind of stuff that makes me shake my head now more than anything. Is all it takes to fix racism is to make some white folks feel better about black folks by having a white superhero on the screen doing something nice for black folks. Then everybody feels good. Oh, white savior.
Yeah, the white savior. Yeah. Yep. That's, and I don't know. I've never seen The Help either. But is it like a true story thing, or is it just a fiction?
I think it was based on a true story, but the premise of it is a white girl going to Ole Miss or something like this is writing a series of newspaper articles for a newspaper up north, New York Times or something like that, by interviewing black housekeepers in Jackson, Mississippi back during the Civil Rights era. And obviously all these women are not wanting to go on the record because a lot of things that they're saying can cost them their jobs, can cost them their life.
Oh, I got you. Yeah, okay.
Because they're working for the elitists.
Yeah, I got you.
You know, I was born in Jackson, Mississippi.
You were? I was not.
What's the time frame? What's the time period?
When the movie was made or when it was all happening?
When it was the setting. Like
64, 65, 66.
Okay,
yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Because, Brent's Drugs is still operational. They're still in business.
Really?
The Brent's Drug Store. Yeah, they're still operational, but yeah, that was actually a good movie.
I'm not meaning to throw shade against the movie itself, but the whole concept of the white savior,
right,
guy.
What about Get Out? They had a black savior in that movie.
Get Out was fantastic.
Yeah, Jordan Peele's doing awesome shit, man. He and that's a good example. So he made some statements about how he cast movies and all that, and he basically said, like, I'm going to cast more black people. And when I read it, I didn't read it into it as like, oh, he hates white people.
No.
But there were so many people that were like,
because it was something really fresh that you'd never seen before, of almost showing not a reverse side of slavery, but showing a reverse negative image side of modern slavery. Of we don't have slave auctions now, but what we have now is as rich old white people die off, we can keep your traits and put them in the body of a young black man. You can live forever. Right. And if you follow the historiography of that going back, and I'm trying to stop short of us talking about roots porn, but you can follow that kind of storyline all the way back to 1619.
Yeah. Did you ever check out Roots Porn?
I have not watched any Roots porn, but
yeah,
I'm gonna wait till I get out to
Is
Mercer.
this something that got mentioned on the Downtown Get Down?
Yeah.
Well, this has been a recurring subject. Are you familiar with Roots porn?
Just porn parody. They do like
I've seen
bunch of the TV shows.
I've seen the movie parody, or I've never seen them, but I know what you're talking. They did a parody of Roots?
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Fucking amazing.
It's amazing.
That shit should have won a Golden Globe.
Oh, man.
No, they have awards for porn.
AVN.
stars.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm familiar.
I'm sure you are.
Every time that comes up in certain circles, I always act like ignorant. I'm like, they have that?
Adult.
Knowing I watch like the highlight reel and shit. Roots porn, okay.
Yeah.
And you're a fan.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Must have a storyline.
Of course, it's got a storyline. Else
When he told me about it, and when he's talking about roots porn is not a genre. It's basically a porn redo of the movie Roots.
Mm-hmm.
And when he told me, he starts explaining the subject of it and how it's done. I'm like, of course it is. The minute you told me that there was a Roots version, what's the title of it? What's it called?
I think it's
The Root.
definitely not Roots or something like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
so so this kind of proves too that. Are you guys familiar with Rule 34? Internet rule number 34. I don't know how this came about and why 34 is just random.
No.
Basically, rule 34 says if it exists, period, hard stop, there's porn about it.
No.
I'm rolling with that.
Okay. 34. Okay.
I don't know where
I don't know.
I think they just randomly.
But I believe that.
Rule number 34.
I believe that.
If it exists, there's porn about it.
Sure is.
Did y'all happen to see the Barack Obama porn?
No.
Oh my
It's
God.
I can't think of his name, but he kind of looks like Barack Obama.
Oh my goodness.
And he got the blue suit on. He's in the White House, and
Okay.
painting the White House black
And white.
and white.
Wow. I'm not saying I'm going to check it out, the Roots porn, but we'll get
All
back
I have
you.
to say is a porn remake of Roots, and you know exactly what it looks like.
Sure.
You know?
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
If I had this set up, I would never come out. Of the house.
Oh, the
Yeah.
nerd station there. So, what was the other flick that Jordan Peele did?
Us.
Yeah, that was a good one too.
That was a little bit. I couldn't get into it.
Oh yeah, I liked it.
I was afraid to watch that movie.
Okay, so I'm a big fan, and he does it really well. So I'm a big horror fan, and as a kid, it was the classics, and then as you evolve, it's like, I don't care for the jump scares so much anymore because I think that's a cheap thrill, jumping out. Okay, and it's going to be in every movie, in every horror movie, but if that's all they rely on, I'm not a fan of just something jumped out and scared you. I like that tension, that atmospheric, and he does that really well to the point where you're almost uncomfortable. Just like I like that because it's always like kind of at the end you finally like when you feel yourself like, you're like, damn, I was like nervous as shit this whole time, and I dig that. Like when you can do that to me just by watching a movie, I love it. So I think that's he nails that, and he's producing a remake of Candyman.
Yeah,
I saw that.
I saw that.
And I'm excited about that.
Either.
I'm excited about
No.
that. I've told have I told you guys my Candyman story?
No. I don't think so.
I'm going to tell a brief version of it because I've already told the full version on the podcast, and I don't want to bore the listeners too much. Actually, I don't care. This is mine. I'm
It's
doing
your
it all.
shit, man.
So, I used to go to these horror and tattoo conventions, and just so happened there was one that was together. It was a horror and tattoo convention called the Full Moon Fest in Nashville. And at that convention, Matt Brown tattooed this. He tattooed all these tattoos, but this one in particular was at that very convention. Well, they were all going up that Friday night because it's like a Friday, Saturday, Sunday ordeal. Well, they were going up that Friday afternoon, but I couldn't. I had to work. So I said, I'll be there Saturday. We'll get going. So I show up Saturday morning, and it's at the Airport Marriott in Nashville, in one of the big convention halls. And I get there. I got to use the bathroom. So I'm like, I'm going to run to the bathroom, then I'm going to run over here and get tattooed. We're going to party it up. It's going to be fun. And it was. I get done using the restroom. I go to the sink. I'm washing my hands. So another part of the story you need to know is at these conventions, they also, so a bunch of tattoo artists, and then on the horror side of things, they would have these actors and like mostly B-list, celebrities from horror movies. And they would sign stuff and, meet and greets and all that. So I didn't know who all was going to be there. I knew there was going to be people, just didn't know who. Get to the sink, I'm washing my hands, and I look up in the mirror, and Tony Todd, the guy who plays Candyman, is standing behind me, like walking up to wash his hands.
The pain will be exquisite.
So, exactly. And so, I have the moment where I freak the fuck completely out.
I bet.
But then, also in that moment, I like my brain goes, "Oh, he's here for the thing." But all I could say was, "Oh fuck!"
And you just happened to be looking in the fucking mirror when he showed
and
up.
Tony Todd looked at me like,
You're like, did I say it? Did I say it?
He looked at me like, "What the fuck?" And then he died laughing. And I was like, "Dude." I was like, "What? You can't do that, man. You cannot walk up on people." I was like, "I didn't even say the damn name once, much less the."
That's when you wish that you could say to him, "said Dude, let's pull a joke on my buddy."
That'd have
Say,
been amazing.
say,
yeah.
go back in the shitter for a minute. Give you a second. That's what you go get your homeboy and go in there and said, "Man, watch this.
Check this shit out.
Candyman. Candyman.
Man.
Candyman." That some bitch comes out of the stall.
God, I wish I would have thought of that.
Oh,
I was
man.
like, but I was so frazzled because I was like, "What the fuck?" And then I was like, "Oh yeah, he's here." And then I just was like, "Oh shit!" And he was like, he laughed, and he was a cool guy. He's such a nice guy, and it's weird to meet people that terrified the shit out of you, and they're like super nice. So him, and he's especially because he was it was him in the movie. He didn't have a mask. He didn't have any. I mean, it was just that guy, and he's a huge guy. I mean, but he's so nice. And
The scariest thing to most white folks in that movie is watching a blonde woman go to Cabrini Green. Don't do it.
Oh, but I also met Gunnar Hansen, who played Leatherface in the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But that guy wears a mask and stuff.
Right.
So when you see
Yeah,
him,
you didn't
he's just like
recognize.
he's a huge guy, but he's just like someone's granddad. He was like silver haired, big beard, and he was just a really nice guy. But those were cool conventions. But yeah, Tony Todd scared the shit out of me in a Marriott bathroom.
It's the scariest movie you ever saw.
Scariest movie, honestly. Because I'm thinking context here. Because generally now, stuff will freak me out.
As a
but
kid.
probably Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's my favorite. It's probably my favorite still. And the reason is because I thought, for some reason, that it was real. Like, like in my little, 7 or 8 year old brain, I was way too young to watch it. It was like a documentary or like a found footage type thing or something. I don't know. But there's a few moments in that movie that are still freaky as hell to me. Like, so
And of course, it's based on a true story of Ed Gein.
right, loosely based on. And Ed Gein's been the basis of a
lot of movies.
Hannibal Lecter and all these things. But there's a scene in that movie where there's a couple scenes that stand out to me. One of them is when she's walking by that door and that huge metal door swings open, and he grabs her, and there's this chaos and screaming, and then the door closes and it's just silence. And you're like, what's going on there?
Yeah.
And then when you get to inside that room, he hangs her on this meat hook in this scene, and it's so damn
Raw.
visceral. Like
Yeah.
it's so like the scream, and you're almost like, did he really put her on this? You know? And
One of the things that scared me about that, because I've always said the scariest of scary movies are ones that happen in the daytime.
oh yeah,
Because the daytime is when you're supposed to be safe. Mm-hmm. And when shit happens in the daytime, it shows you're not safe. You don't like scary movies.
No, not at all.
What about you?
I don't.
Oh, okay.
As a kid, and this was so funny. My parents used to say, "Come on, kids." It was just at the time me and my little sister, and we used to all gather in a den and watch all the Jason and Friday the 13th, and it never failed. At that time, me and my little sister used to sleep in the same bed, and every time we would watch a movie, I would have the worst nightmares. And the only way for me to sleep, I used to sit there and grab her like this in my sleep, and she'd be like, "Get off of me, and then I could never just get to sleep. So I watched, I think, all of Jason movies. I watched all of Halloween, even Freddy Krueger, but it was, and I cannot think of the name. Y'all have to help me, but it was this one particular movie. I cannot think of the name of it, but I think towards the end, all these hooks just came out.
Hellraiser.
Oh my God!
Oh,
it.
Hellraiser, yeah.
That drew the first one, so I didn't
Yep.
see anything after that. That kind of just that drew the line for me
Okay.
right
I
there.
love the original Halloween because it's a classic,
it's
but
really good. Yeah.
I was never a fan of the slasher movies because I didn't find them scary. I mean, they were entertaining from almost like a jump scare roller coaster kind of fun.
Oh yeah.
But I was a big fan of the ghost movies and stuff like that. But as a kid, there was a vampire movie called Salem's Lot.
Oh, yeah.
The original one.
Yes.
That's a Stephen King story.
Yeah.
Because they redid
That
it,
one
but
scared
the
the piss
original
out of
one,
me.
yes, that was.
But The Shining, movies like that got me. But if you had to, you've heard the thing before that if flying saucer comes down and lands, and somebody from Mars gets off that thing, and they say, we want an example of the perfect movie. What would you?
Perfect movie, just any movie.
If you had to give an example of cinema to someone, what would your example be?
That's a good question. So any movie, not just horror. We were talking about
Yep,
horror, but now we're just any movie.
any genre.
Wow.
That if you said I had to pick one, that this is what I'm going to offer up is my example of the shining moment of film. It can't be roots porn.
No.
It could be. I don't know.
Yeah, you probably need to go see somebody if you pick that one.
I'm gonna say
Roots porn doesn't make sense unless you've seen Roots.
I'm gonna say Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction.
It's a good one. Oh, let me think here, because I'm like, do I go comedy? Do I go serious? Do I go? That's a really good question, Scott Bumpus. Holy crap!
Mine's a tie. I'm tied between two of what I would offer up as the perfect movies. And one of them's an easy go-to. That's The Godfather.
Okay.
Because it's the greatest of all gangster movies.
Can we agree though, real quick? Because I need to make sure I'm not off on this because I've had a couple of disputes on this one.
All right.
Most people seem to agree. Godfather,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yep.
Godfather 2,
Yep.
really, really good.
Yep. And I'm gonna go answer your final question. Yes.
Godfather 3,
The shithole.
what the hell happened?
Terrible.
You're like,
Terrible.
We were doing so good, guys.
Terrible.
It's a fucking travesty. Yeah.
Terrible.
So I just want to make sure I wasn't.
You can
wrong.
push something too far. There is
Yep.
a line to be
Oh
crossed.
my God, they
But,
pushing a whole bunch of things too
Yep.
far. These
But
days.
the Godfather, that's a good one. What was the other one? The Godfather and.
Easy Rider.
I'm gonna go. This is probably a strange one, but it's one that I watched again recently. I've seen it a million times. One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Oh, okay. So
Love it.
you didn't see that, did you, Rico?
Absolutely not.
What was the big Indian name in there?
Oh,
Shit.
I just watched it. Like it's been within the last month. Son of a bitch.
And I know you're supposed to say native peoples, but that's one that I'm having a hard time
Indigenous
transitioning out of.
peoples
Indigenous
now.
peoples,
Yeah.
yes. But in his, he was the big Indian, though. That's what they called him. So.
I can't think of the name right now.
But he was
It'll come to
Jack
me.
Nicholson's kind of protector and bodyguard
Yes.
until they did the lobotomy on him. And
Yes. So I don't. Yeah, maybe that's a tough
You
question.
never
That's
seen
like-
it?
That's on the. You should watch that movie.
Jack Nicholson, he ends up getting himself checked into a mental institution, and it's what life is like inside there. And I'm trying to remember the premise of it because it's been years since I saw it. That he ended up taking it was like a plea, wasn't it?
Yep.
Of insanity, just to not get prosecuted for something. And they put him in this hardcore mental institution. And
But it's-
Chief Bromden.
but
Is
what was
that
his
it?
name
What was
in
the
the movie?
character's name?
That's what I'm saying. That's what it say right there.
No. What was his name in the movie?
Yeah,
Chief Bromden. That's what
it was
it say.
Chief. Okay,
Oh, Chief.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you said Keith.
There it is.
basic Keith.
Chief.
But yeah, basically he's like takes the plea, gets put there, and then it's but it's a comedy. I mean, it's a comedy, not just comedy, but it is a
Yeah,
comedy.
but it's dramatic comedy.
Yeah,
you
for
know.
sure.
But it's almost like a farce there. Well, Pulp Fiction's not a comedy,
No.
but you're going to laugh
Yeah.
a lot in it. You know.
What about a perfect comedy? Let's go with that. I got mine already, and I'll stand by it for the rest. I decided this probably in my 20s. The perfect comedy.
See, I
There's
like
a-
stand up.
There's a couple.
me too. I
There's
love
a couple
stand-up.
of them out there.
I love stand up.
And I still hadn't got Rico to listen to Richard Pryor yet.
What? All right. One of the first one that comes to mind is Raising Arizona.
Oh, of course, son. You got a panty
You got a
on your head.
panty on your head.
Favorite comedy? I'm gonna go with Harlem Nights.
That's a really good one.
That's a good one.
One of my favorite lines in that movie is from Red Fox.
Just makes me realize how much older I am than you.
When he says, yeah, he converted to Catholicism. He said, that's some mean pussy, make a man change gods.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite lines ever. For me, it's The Jerk.
That's a good one.
Okay,
That's
you're
a
going to
good
think I'm lying to you.
You saw that one.
You're going to think I'm lying to you. But that one was sitting right there on the tip of my
really?
tongue as well.
Man, that movie.
Steve Martin at his absolute finest.
That
It's got
movie-
tons of one-liners.
One of my
God, somebody really hates these cans.
it's the cans. One of my favorite scenes is towards the end when he says, he's going through the whole, I don't need any of this. All I need is this lamp.
This paddleball game.
Yeah, and he's grabbing all the stuff, and he gets outside. And I never noticed this when I was younger, but when I rewatch it, as I'm older, it's one of my favorite scenes. He says, "And my dog," and the dog growls. He goes, "I don't need my dog."
I don't even. Shithead. Shithead.
And my dog, I don't need my dog.
Here's what's funny. My brother that passed away, we're down there cleaning out his house, and he had a big, full-size poster of the year that The Jerk came out. Bernadette Peters did a centerfold in Playboy.
Nice.
And the cover of the Playboy is Bernadette Peters in this little black dress, and he had a full-size poster of Bernadette in that little black dress hanging on the wall.
I love it. That scene where they're on the beach and they sing the song. It's beautiful. Yeah, it's beautiful, man. It's like the most beautiful song. But
It is.
That movie is so damn funny. With the Italian mobsters, he's like, the spooks. He drops the N-word. He's like, I, sir, am a... And then and he kicks the dude and he breaks his foot. And he's like, how was I supposed to know that was Iron Balls McGinty or whatever? Just it's so dumb, but like the way that it's put together is so good. Son, This is shit. This is Shinola.
Shit, Shinola, got it.
You're gonna be fine. It's so. Oh man, I can watch. I think that's. And I mean, I say that now.
It's on one of the channels nearly all the time.
Yeah, but it's one of those. It's just one of those things. Like, it's just to me, it's just such a beautiful, perfect.
It is
funny movie. But there's a million. I mean, dude, I love movies.
Navin Johnson.
And I'm with Lolita on this. I love some stand up. Like, to me, it's like I could watch that.
Eddie Murphy Raw was on the other night when we were going to bed.
Well, speaking of, once again, Delirious was the first one.
Delirious was the first one. Raw was the second.
So speaking of things you can't say,
yeah,
he drops the. I don't even know if you can say. I know it's like, is the F word the same? Is it just as bad now? Faggot? Can you say faggot?
Well, and
I know you can't. That, by the way, everyone listening, I do not use that word.
Yeah.
I'm saying Eddie Murphy used it in a comedy special.
And once again,
I'll
you're talking.
beep that up.
You're talking context of the times, and I'm not one of these. I always hear these guys. Well, you hear black people say that all the time. So therefore, well, that's their word. They own that word.
Yeah.
White people gave it to them a long time ago. It's one of the only things that white people gave them to keep as their own, and they got to keep it. It's theirs now.
The word
okay?
faggot.
No, the other one.
Gotcha.
Faggot's almost along that same lines in there.
But here's
I don't
the thing.
use it.
It
I
was
don't
an
use
old
it. Yeah.
word.
But here's the
I
thing,
just,
and
there's something
Yeah.
they used to use back. I remember they said it on God, what was the college movie? What's the man name that did the movie? He's dead now. He just died not too long ago.
The college movie.
It's a black college movie set in Atlanta.
School Days.
School Days.
Oh, yeah.
When Samuel L. Jackson was in the I don't know if they were in McDonald's or KFC or something,
KFC.
and he was like, "You college educated faggots," they were still using it back in the day. But I mean, it's like, hey. They've come up with
But here's how I know
many different
and
words.
this is going to be
days.
this is going to be the most unpopular episode ever.
Well,
but,
intent. There's a big. You got to figure intent.
Sure,
when
but
you talk
here's the
about these
thing.
things.
Here's the thing. Here's how I know that one's worse than the other is because me and you both said that one word, and we still say the N. The N, like quotations, the N word. But we'll say if we're talking about something.
I don't know who's listening to this. This guy, me and this guy have a lot of conversations where that word will come up, but he also. Rico's referred to me as the blackest white guy he knows too. There's a difference, and if I got to explain the fucking difference to anybody, I don't have to explain the difference to anybody.
Males listening to
Well, here's the thing. I've had in the past a group of guys from high school. They were like, "We're giving you the pass," and I was like, "What?" They're like, "The N word," and I said,
"No." And
I said, and at the time I was like 17, 18 years old, so it was like, fellas, I'm honored. But unless there's a database somewhere that everyone can go check, like I'm not doing it. I'm not saying that.
Good call.
And for me, like I don't even want to, right? I'm not that guy that's like I'm not trying to do that. So yeah, it was like one of those like, hey, thank you, but no, I'm not gonna. I'll just keep being me.
It doesn't work.
No,
it doesn't work. And we've done so. You always get to know. Well, I got friends who are black. Well, that's awesome. You ever sat around and talked and had a conversation about race with them? Well, no, we don't have to. I said, then you ain't. Let's not talk about your black friends. Right. If you've never had a serious, here's Scott Bumpus. If you have never had a serious conversation about race with your black friends, you don't truly have black friends. Then
I think that's true.
Fact.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I think that's true.
Yeah.
So here's the thing. I think it can be.
You may know some black people.
Sure,
that's very different.
Well, it can be a very uncomfortable conversation, but I think I've definitely had the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right. I think you're absolutely right on that. I think you're absolutely right.
A lot of people want to say that racism is dead. Okay, so no.
It's only white people that say that.
It's absolutely
them the same white people that don't want Snoop coming to town.
Bingo.
Or get mad at your.
I'm not racist, but
right.
It's just that they think they have. They think they hide it, but it doesn't. Because I work for the government, and places that I've worked for in Jackson, Mississippi before that, it is like blatant. But I guess it's only blatant because I can see it. And they're saying, no. Because when you walk into a facility, and this is what we used to say, certain hospitals in Jackson, Mississippi, they'll have like pictures on the wall of all the chiefs, you know, who was head of the hospital, and we would always say the wall of white men.
Sure.
Because that's all you see
Sure.
on the wall. And so, you know, I was like, but then when you start working around it, it becomes a little different. Now I will say that there was this one guy that I did work with, and he was like Scott. He was so down to earth, and he was like, oh yeah, I used to go hang out at the spot. I was like, what? Yeah, I used to go hang out down there. And so I did have this one incident, and this was probably the one and only time that I have been called the N-word to my face.
Oh, wow.
And it was from a female patient of mine who was 20 years old.
So that's the part that kills me. If you told me it was an 80-year-old woman,
No.
I would have said, I can accept.
Sure.
This was learned. So when you're 20 years old,
It's all learned.
and this has only been probably, it hasn't even been 10 years I said that this has happened. I would give it a good 7, maybe 8 years that this happened. She was 20 years old, and she came in. She tried to swallow a lot of pills to keep from going to jail. So we was like, come on, move over to the bed. They brought her from the come on, move over to the bed. I said, everybody 1, 2, 3 lift. Come on, I got to get you out your clothes. So I started cutting because she wouldn't move. And she opened her eyes and she said, you gave me the N-word. You cut my good shirt. And she reached up and she kicked me square in my stomach.
Oh, my goodness.
And she just kept saying the N-word. And he got so nervous. He said, stop it. You know, he just said, stop. He put his hand on my, stop it. Stop saying it. I said, no, let her go.
Let her roll.
I'm going to cut the story off right there, though.
No, that's fine. So,
Did you cut the camera off?
well,
in
if
the
you don't
roll?
mind, if you don't mind me asking, so that's a good point to bring up, because I think that especially in health care and things like that, you're going to run into that. And so where at that point, where does the profession, like, so where's the line, professional to, hey, and you don't have to go into details about that story.
Let me tell you, it's rough, and then it's really rough because that was the first time. So yes, it kind of did something to me.
Sure.
But then after that, we had to call a code, what we call when we need all hands on deck because somebody's being combative. So I went to go and get some restraints, and by this time it was like so many nurses in the room, and they were holding her down. And then when I came back with the restraints, she was like, "Oh, they should have tied you they should have hung you from a tree when you were born."
Jesus.
So at that point, I kind of lost it a little bit, but I had to leave the room. They did take me out. But my point is,
That's where it becomes a
she's
hostile
20.
work
No, but
environment,
let me tell you what
Sure.
was. Let me tell and we have to deal with it. But let me tell you what was the worst part of it. The next day, they brought her child up there, and just guess what her child was.
Mixed.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Roots born.
Yes.
And let's
It's come full circle.
who is our girl that didn't like white people Wednesday?
Yeah, she had mixed grandkids.
Here's the thing, and I think generally people are trying to have a good heart. So when you talk about this, that racism's not what it used to be anymore. I think that a lot of white folks think that I don't like the KKK, therefore I'm not racist. And I think that there are things that people don't even realize that they do on a general basis that are really, really rooted in 100-year-old Jim Crow stuff, but things in society are so deeply ingrained that white folks may not be able to hear the dog whistle, and they can't see things through the same filter that you see them through. I hear people say before, and they've talked about somebody black that they know, and they'll say, he's really articulate and speaks really well. Okay, that is a dog whistle for he doesn't sound like a field hand, okay? And that's where that comes from.
Right.
So if they can say, well, I don't like the Klan, therefore I can't be racist, that's where and a lot of these same kind of folks would hear you talk about the Hall of White Men, say, well, that's racist in and of itself. No, it's not. It's not. You can't. Bingo. And until somebody can see things through your eyes, because shit that's happening right now didn't start happening right now.
Right.
It's been happening for a long, long, long time, and without having a grasp on the history of it and the context of it, you can't make that call. I do think if we want to compare the way things are now versus what they were 50 years ago, and then 50 years prior to that, and then 50 years prior to that, things have changed. I think people's hearts are probably better now than they were before. Your patient withstanding.
Well,
I think people's hearts are better than they were before.
Just, like I say, but so when you're a certain age, and right now younger, like you said, this is all learned behavior. Sure. We had an incident in Jackson, Mississippi, where 2 carloads of white kids decided that they wanted to go find somebody black and pretty much kind of mess with them. But they ended up killing a man that night. They lived like down the road, like Brandon or whatever, and it was like 2 carloads of them. So they riding around Jackson, Mississippi trying to find somebody black. Well,
there's a great historic context to that as well.
Right. And so the thing about it is they pulled off the exit, and there was this hotel off the exit. And there was this black guy that was at the hotel, but he was actually walking. Well, one of the carloads of kids, they went on to McDonald's. These 2 boys were in this truck. And I mean, the camera caught them. They literally ran over the man. Oh my gosh. Sure. I mean, and it's hard to watch. Sure. Because they had already pulled in the parking lot, and they were already, heckling him and messing with him. After the other carload left, as soon as this guy started walking and he was going to go up the sidewalk, I mean, they literally just plowed him over. Now, both of them are in prison. Good. But it's just, you're talking about 17 and 18-year-olds who should be at home on a Friday night this late. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But they're out here running over. And they stated that that's what they were going,
Yeah, it wasn't like, it wasn't an accident. It wasn't, right. We came seeking this.
Right.
Yep.
And so my thing is, at that age, learned behavior.
Absolutely. It is learned. It's all learned behavior. Nobody is genetically programmed to be that way. You are what you're taught and what you see.
But like you said though, if I had to say it was an 80-year-old,
at least there's some context to that though. Right.
Well, like I heard, so for example on that, like I heard, this has been some years ago, and I don't remember where it was at, if it was at a job or if I was somewhere, but I heard an old man, and he was old, really old, an old white man, talking about someone else and say, yeah, this colored fellow. And I went, like, we're talking 2017, and I went, Jesus Christ, are you kidding me? Right. But at the end of the day, like, I'm not excusing what he said. I'm not justifying what he said, but I know he didn't mean anything. I don't think he meant anything hateful by it. But at the same time, it's like, it's
a product of the society he was brought up in.
Like, that's just, like, who the hell is saying that in 2017, And then it's still there. I mean, there's people's grandparents out there or whatever, but.
The home that I was brought up in, and Rico knows my whole family, knows my parents, knows all my brothers. Black folks were never referred to by that term in our home. I never heard it. In fact, the first time I heard it was, when I was little, I heard it on a movie. And then I heard it again from somebody when I was probably 6 or 7, after we've done moved out of Mississippi and moved out of Memphis and we're living in the Chicago area. First time I really heard it in public. So I almost feel like I was sheltered from that going on, because I never heard it around the house. I never heard it out of my grandparents.
I was the same way.
I didn't hear it. But when I start looking back and I start looking at societal things, you know what was a fixture at my grandmother's house was Lavy. Lavy was the woman who lived on the other side of Jackson, who was always at my grandmother's house. She always had a black woman there working and was there all the time. And I never saw her come and sit down and visit with my grandmother. I think she probably did when the rest of us wasn't around, because long after Levy was even able to do any physical work for the house, but she still worked for my grandmother, who didn't have a bunch of money. My granddad was a railroader. They lived over on Talbot Street, or not on Talbot. That's my other grandparents, on Hatton Street in Jackson. I think it almost became her friend and companion, but not publicly. Not publicly. I think they sat and visited in the house a lot. Don't think they ever sat on the front porch and visited.
Yeah.
So we start talking about things that are societally acceptable or not. We roll back 50 years ago. This conversation right here in Oakfield, Tennessee isn't happening.
Yep.
Right.
These neighbors saw y'all coming in the house over here. Things are different.
Yeah.
Things are different.
Sure.
So things have changed for the better. But what hasn't changed necessarily is, yes, you don't have to worry about a whites-only lunch counter right now. Don't have that. You don't have to worry about not being allowed into a certain school. You don't have that. But when we start taking it to the next higher level, you still have to worry about redlining and interest rates and banking. Hell yeah, you do. Those are the things that haven't.
But what
changed.
What I'd like to say to that point is, though, people think that just because progress has been made that we can't backslide. And I don't know if you're familiar with Iran from the 1960s versus Iran, the country in the Middle East versus now.
I've heard of it.
But Iran in the 1960s was going through this like very progressive, like the women were wearing makeup and none of the covering the face and none of that stuff. And now it's like this complete and that's a whole different thing. But just to show you, like, progress can definitely take a backslide. And if we don't think that the people that are in charge of our country and all those things, like, isn't important. I mean,
listen, let's talk about a backslide. And I read a lot. I read a lot, and my choice for reading is historical nonfiction. Okay. If I was to go ask in general society when the absolute worst time for black folks was it prior to abolition or after abolition or what? Now, that's a misleading question right there, because there's a lot of context in there. And I'd back it up with the next question. I said, do you think black folks had it better in 1869 as a people or 1969? And I'm going to tell you, there's enough historical aspect to say that things were better for black folks in 1869, because now you're right in the beginning stages of Reconstruction. You are finally getting black ownership of homes and farms for the first time in the history of the country. You've got black representation. You've got guaranteed voting rights that were backed up by soldiers and backed up by the government. You've got black folks in Congress representing black population. You've got all these things happening. You've got black ownership of business. You've got government-backed loans for black folks who were coming out of slavery. And all that ended in 1877 when Reconstruction ended. And then you roll into a period that's been called the nadir of race relations, and that's in that 1880, 1890 up to 1910 period, which it can be argued that was probably just as the only thing that did not make it better to the years prior to abolition is at least you could move someplace and were backed by a law to be able to do so.
Yep.
But when it comes to persecution and violence,
yep,
it was the worst time. So I think there was an argument to be made that from a structural or from a social level, in a financial level, that things. And 69 to 69 is probably a hard one because that did fall after voting rights legislation that came in 64 and 60 and 68. But things, white folks can make the argument real quick that once Lincoln freed the slaves, bam, y'all get over it. Real easy to get. Yeah,
Right.
Get over it. Yeah.
We talk about learned behavior as far as like racism goes and stuff. I think it's the same thing with homosexuality too. Have y'all heard about Dwayne Wade's situation?
A little bit with his child.
Yeah, I think his son is like, he was born a boy, but now they're referring to him as a girl because his son chooses to live his life as a girl, and his parents are supporting it.
Yeah,
it's all. That's something that he learned. It was something that was shoved down his throat. His mom was taking him to like gay pride parades and shit like that at a very young age. And you can live your life any kind of way you want to. You got that right. But at the age of 10 or 12, I can't get with that.
I don't know.
Gay has been around for so long.
And it has.
And he's probably not had, I'm sure he's not had a gay experience. And what
He hadn't even had a straight experience at 10.
I know that.
When I was 10, I knew that I loved girls, though. I knew.
And okay, so
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
things change. I mean, come on.
So, but there is, and look, I would like to be more educated on this stuff because I'm not, and I don't want to sound hateful or ignorant but I am ignorant on it. The trans stuff, I don't know much about, but I do know that it's been a thing for a long time.
Right.
You had gay dinosaurs.
Dinosaurs
it happened.
wasn't fucking real. Dinosaurs are not real.
Diplodocus is pretty gay.
I knew you was gonna come up with something.
I mean, you don't believe in gay dinosaurs?
I don't believe in dinosaurs.
Where they get them big bones from?
This took a turn.
That's a gay. It's okay. So I'm telling you now, dinosaurs were gay.
If you say so.
That's why they ain't here no more?
Listen,
This is the best conversation.
you've never heard of a lick a lot of puss.
Rico is not amused right now.
If y'all didn't know she was from Mississippi, you do now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
A lick a lot of puss.
oh my goodness. So, so here's my stance, and I'm probably gonna
bless her heart.
I'm probably gonna get canceled before I even become a thing. But here's my stance: is like, look, you can be and do whatever you want to be and do, but you need to be an adult to make that decision.
I agree.
If you're a parent and and I'm not saying on dressing a certain way, that's different, but to give any child any kind of hormones or to let them have any kind of surgery of that nature,
I totally agree with that.
That to me is neglect and abuse. You can't make that decision yet. Like I said, I don't know
Yeah, because
enough about all of it.
I stopped that line from when you start medically
Right.
trying to help make changes, and I'm with you. I'm with you on that. When it comes to gender assignment stuff like that, I don't know. I don't know. If you'd have talked to me 15, 20 years ago, I would have been like, that's bullshit. But I don't know now. But to your point, Rico, when you said a second ago, they said this kid, talking about at 10 years old, knew he was gay. You can't make that choice. Like I said, I knew that I wasn't at 10 years old, so I'm not sure that can be there. I'm not sure it's a choice, but I don't know.
Well, I tell you what, had your parents been taking you to gay pride parades and shit like that,
His parents are being supportive.
It's a difference in being supportive and being kind of pushed into something. And if they were really that supportive, they wouldn't be making a spectacle of it all over the news.
So you're thinking that his parents pushed him into feeling that way?
I mean, they probably pushed him into feeling like, okay, baby, if that's who you really are, we supporting it.
That's just basically what it is.
Do that shit at the house. Don't do it in front of cameras and putting them on display for everybody to see.
The reason that I agree.
How come when folks talk about black folks, they use the term shoving it down their throat? Or not black folks, but gay folks.
Yeah.
Why they always say, keep that gay stuff, don't shove it down my throat? I think that's Freud talking.
Right. You're like, but maybe later.
Don't stuff that gay stuff down my throat. No homo, right?
Yeah.
So in other words, you prefer them to hide it.
Well,
I'm not
no.
saying
Well,
hide it.
Wait, I want to hear where this is going.
hold on, but
Everything ain't everybody's business.
what I do want to back you up on this is no kid should be in that spotlight anyway. Because they don't have
Ever.
and I have some good friends who have made some cool decisions where they don't post a lot of pictures of their kids on social media because they're like I want them to make that choice when they get to that age. Yeah.
Okay, so let me tell you this. I do not believe, and from what I have been looking at, it's not like they said, "Oh, well, here's Dwayne Wade's son. He's gay and he's a girl." Actually, what really happened was a lot of stuff that he was doing. It ended up in the media. There was I saw a fashion show
Talking to the mic.
that he was in, and he was twisting around like a girl. Okay, so you know how social media is today. All it takes is one person snapping a picture, putting it out here, then it's going here, it's being pulled left and right. It's not like he said, "Oh, here's my son, he's gay, I'm gonna put him out there." That's not how that happened. It's just that pictures started surfacing of things that his young son was doing, and eventually it got out that his son felt this way. So basically, I just feel as though they're just supporting his decision. But now, did they put it on display? No.
I disagree.
Okay.
He didn't try to stop it once it got out there. If he
Would you want him to lie about it?
No. Get on the interview, be like, "Yo, that's my son. I support him, but leave my son alone. He too young for this shit right now."
Touchy.
We're not gonna talk about it.
Touchy because of who Dwayne Wade is. And I'm just saying, I'm telling you, when you are somebody that famous, and then you have a famous wife, because
Who is his wife? And I don't know enough about
Gabrielle
it.
Union.
Oh, okay. I don't know enough about him.
Second
So.
wife, but I mean,
I'm so white. I'm trying to figure out who Dwayne Wade is.
The basketball player.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
That was a joke,
I'm
baby.
sorry. I'm sorry.
Duke's mayonnaise. This segment brought to you by Duke's mayonnaise. Go ahead.
But I mean, think about it. So when you're in the spotlight like that, nothing about your life is really private. Because think about it. Let's go back. So you had all this stuff out about Dwayne Wade divorcing his first wife. Then they're talking about Dwayne Wade's first wife is homeless or this or that. I mean, it's just when you are that popular, everything about your life is put on display, which is probably why a lot of these people have issues or on some type of medication. I mean, because you think about it, these people can't even walk to the mall. They can't even walk to the store without somebody, "Oh my God," this is just how their life
How many
is.
folks said, "I wish my daddy was famous," and I'm sitting there thinking, "I'm so glad my daddy wasn't
Right.
famous."
Oh yeah.
Check this out. Everything you said is true, but that's neither here nor there. If they really supported him, they would let him find his way on his own. Why in the hell would you take a child to a gay pride
Because he
parade?
said he was gay.
Just same reason
What the fuck?
same reason you take him to
They
see
only
Disney.
took him because he said it, not throwing it down his throat.
That's exact.
What if he told you he liked Disney and they took him to Disney on Ice?
That's some kid shit. I mean, I know it's a lot of underlying tones between Disney and gay shit too. That's another conversation for another day.
That's not where I was going with
Oh man.
But okay,
But consider to your point, and because again, I don't know. I don't know how I would react or what I would do with it, what you should do with it. But to your point, when you and I don't know if they looked at it through this filter, but when you take the suicide rate amongst children who identify as gay is, I don't know the stat, but I'm gonna go on a limb and say it's probably 3 or 4 times that of the national average. So if you get a
I
child
do know
who is
for
saying,
I do know at some point in the trans community, which I know that's different.
it's different. Yeah.
So, but in the trans community, it was the suicide rate was like upwards of 40%.
Okay.
And yeah, so
yeah, so it's huge.
Yeah.
At any rate, we can all agree on that it's much higher than what the average is. So if they get this kid who is telling his parents are gay, regardless of how old he is, and they're trying to make this child feel like they are a part of something bigger, that they're not a freak, that there's not anything wrong with them, so they take them to be at a gay pride parade. And I don't know about gay pride parades, that kind of thing has almost become a caricature. What if it wasn't a gay pride parade, but they took him to a I don't know if gay folks have ice cream socials, but something like that, where people where they can be around people who identify the same way that they do. Is that a bad thing? Would that be better on the psyche of that kid than for Dwayne Wade to say, you need to hush your mouth and go sit in your room? And I ain't saying that's what he said to him either. What's more healthy?
You're not going to be gay.
What if?
Boy, you better get that out of your mouth.
What if I was growing up and I said, what if I was growing up and 10 years old? I hate black folks. I hate the color of my skin. I hate black folks. I'm gonna kill some black folks. What would it be okay if my dad took me to a Klan rally?
No, hold on. You're conflating two things that are vastly different at this point now.
It's the same shit.
No. Because being gay and being
it's a choice.
Racist.
If you go by the adage that it's a choice, then I would agree with you. I can't get my head wrapped around that it's a choice.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say this, and this is the thing. Just like Scott said, he's 10, and yes, he's learning. I mean, because who knows what's gonna happen when he get older. But what you don't want to happen is the negative impact of his parents. Let's say if they did not support him. Okay, and I'm going to give you a true story because I know a young lady who was in college. And now when she left for college, she loved men, okay? But after being at college for a couple of years, she started developing an affinity for a female. Not saying that she didn't like men, but she started developing an affinity for a particular female. So when she told her parents, they were like, oh my God, no, you're not. You're going to miss your blessings. You blah, 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 blah. Drove her to almost committing suicide.
At least waited till she was in college.
What that got to do with it?
But my point though, of saying is that she went to college and she loved men, it makes me wonder: did she?
Well,
I mean,
women.
Okay, a lot of women experiment in college.
Well, they experiment in high school. It is so many in high school. But my point is,
I knew a couple.
I mean, I will say this: my daughter did a little experiment. I was like,
this is live.
Yeah.
All right.
It's not live.
But, I mean, come on.
But no, listen. Let me tell you. She was in high school, and I said, okay, my sister, no, you not. No, you not.
Okay. Me and the Klan shit, that was a reach. I give y'all that.
Well, I mean,
that was a reach. But what if I'm 10 years old, I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning screaming at the top of my lungs, there's the boogeyman under my bed.
Mm-hmm.
Sleep with the lights on.
But here's the thing, and
my only thing about the choice of it is I'm not sure. I don't think I came to that epiphany and said, you know what? I think I'm going to go for the women thing. It wasn't never. I never. Did you choose to be straight? I didn't. I was kind of born that way.
So you saying people born gay?
I think so.
I think so.
Gay dinosaurs. I'm just telling you. They started way back then.
We're not talking about dinosaurs no more.
Well, my woman don't talk about gay dinosaurs.
Tonight is the first time I ever heard that phrase, gay dinosaurs.
I had never heard it either. I think that just leads her into her punchline of a lickalotopus, though.
I think it was just an elaborate setup to the joke.
Yes,
It's kind of like
it was.
I met a guy that don't like to go in the men's room today. You know why?
You failed horribly with that joke, babe.
No, only to you.
Okay.
I thought it was a pretty good joke.
Thank you. Yeah.
Rico's like, damn it.
Only because he don't believe in dinosaurs.
So,
Am I the only person here that don't believe in dinosaurs?
Yeah.
maybe.
Really?
Guess you don't watch Jurassic Park either, then, huh?
That's
Rico
what
and
you
Rico and I were on another podcast one time, and I told him I described my brother and arguably my best friend in the whole world, Rico Chisholm, as my friend who believes the Illuminati killed Kobe, but don't think Michael Jackson messed with them kids.
So, but you know, this is a great.
I love you, man.
This is a great example. This is an excellent example, though, of how face to face. Like, I know you're a good dude.
Yeah.
And I love hanging out with you, and I love talking to you, and you know what I mean. Like, it's a good time. I believe there were dinosaurs. You don't believe there were dinosaurs, but I'm not online.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Oh, this would be
You're a fucking idiot, and fucking all this stuff, and it's like, dude,
I ain't never
just
seen
talk to
nobody
people.
stand face to face with Rico Chisholm and call him a fucking
Yeah, I
idiot.
don't think anybody.
Yeah, it's always on Facebook.
I don't think that. Well, there's the keyboard warriors, man. That's a different. That's a dude. Look, man.
So wait a minute, you're saying that people can love each other and disagree about things?
my goodness.
Are you kidding me?
So-
I'm out of here, y'all. I
I can't believe you invited me to this show.
ain't never come to Oakfield
So
again.
that's important because we talked about conversations earlier, and the reason I started this podcast in the first place was like I get older and I don't do as much, and I was starting to become kind of a hermit. And then it was like, Matt was doing his thing, and I'd been wanting to do it before, and I was like, I just need to do this because I just want to talk to people that I like, that are interesting, and to think that you're going to agree with everybody you come across is the most bizarre.
It's never happened in history.
and it would be boring as shit.
Well, okay, you know what the term an echo chamber is.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, people put themselves in an echo chamber where the only thing they want to hear. Now, that's the absolute definition of fake news is news that doesn't fit what you think. You know, news is created now to support your narrative, not your narrative. It used to be that your narrative was based off the information you took in. Now you have your narrative, so therefore you project the information out there. That's not the way that things work. But people now want to. Social media has given them the ability to live inside of an echo chamber. Okay, so the thought that you could have somebody be as close of friends as we are, and not click, and not every idea is supported the same way. That's foreign. That's foreign now. People have never all agreed on 100%.
Well, because what I've
things.
noticed the most about, and I don't talk about politics too much because it just to me it's just a
It's a never-ending story.
sure.
So, yeah.
You can discuss some ideas and whatever with people that you're, I think with your friends, but ultimately I stay out of political discussions because, like, all I've noticed, especially on social media, is that everyone talks about the things they hate, and that's how these groups are formed. We all hate this thing, so but no one talks about the shit that we can do better and the shit that we like, and it's always like, I fucking hate this. Well, me too. We're on the same team. It's like we didn't even talk about the shit we actually support, like,
because you're afraid you won't find anything you both like.
right. And
It's easy to find folks that hate the same things you do. It's harder to find folks that love the same things that you do.
it's just a bizarre concept that you can disagree with people and 100% be friends with them. You can be.
Yeah.
And that's literally why I started this podcast, to talk to people and just have organic conversations.
Because on my personal Facebook page, I've got 4,984 friends. I ain't got 16 left to go before
You got to start a new
Zuckerberg
page.
puts me in a camp.
Oh, they said you have to follow you instead of be your friend or whatever.
which is bullshit. But I can recognize all those names now, but if I whittled it down to who is really my people, and this is no offense to anybody else that's on there. A lot of them are acquaintances, people that I've met before, people who have come into the business before. It doesn't mean that people aren't as important to me, but I would never have the same conversations with people who I've met before versus people that I love. You know,
Yep.
because part of love is trust. I have no problem disagreeing with Rico on things, because at the end of it, we love each other and we respect each other and we trust each other to know that he can think this and I can think that. And that's cool. And I can even, he can think something that I think is abominable. I can get on his ass and vice versa. But it's out of love and not out of, you fucking asshole, you moron, blah, 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 blah. That's what happens out there in the interwebs.
Yep.
They aren't, newsflash, Facebook, they call them friends. Doesn't mean they are.
Right.
Doesn't make them bad people.
Sure.
Doesn't mean that
They're
they
just
are.
people, yeah.
Half of them are still on there to watch you fuck up.
Oh, of course. And man, people hate to see you succeed. Boy, they hate it.
Oh, they love to watch you fuck up.
Yeah.
So,
I fucked up before. Have you?
Oh yeah.
man, I can't even. I haven't.
I'm not even gonna look at you because you ain't never done heavy.
She believes in dinosaurs.
Gay dinosaur.
So, but I always take the stance of, and Joe Rogan says this a lot, and I at the end of the day admit that I don't really know anything. I really don't. I don't know anything. I have some ideas about some shit, you know, and one thing I want people to know from listening to this is most of the time I'm fucking around.
Yep.
I'm trying to get a laugh. That's what I do. And I'll openly admit that I don't know shit. And if I say something that's ignorant or it's something that I'm speaking out of turn on, I'll gladly listen to, get educated on it, and change my mind. Like, I'm totally about it. I there's nothing about me that says like this is what I believe and it's what I'll always believe. I'm open to it all. That's what I love about these conversations.
And the internet's a beautiful, wonderful thing. It is.
It really is.
You know, it'd be real easy for us to say that things were better before this and that. No, they weren't. There's very little excuse for being ignorant. Now,
Sure.
Ignorance is almost willful.
We literally have every bit of information
At your fingertips, literally.
The whole
At your
of human knowledge
fingertips is all there, and it's free.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about it.
You can take college courses for free.
You can. There's things you can learn about literally anything out there, and not just people's opinions of it. But honestly, I think that if we all believe closer to the same things than it may seem that we do.
Sure.
People would get along a hell of a lot better if they opened their ears up a little bit and didn't just listen for them fucking dog whistles that we've been talking about.
And another thing too is that people just wait for their turn to respond. They're not really. You're talking to me, but you're not. They're not taking it in. Just waiting for their.
Right.
Oh, is it my turn?
Yeah, just wait for it.
And I'm not leading this into a conversation about how I run my business, but we talk a lot at the Harley store about, we don't talk a whole lot about this model does this and this and this, and we don't talk in those terms a lot. But when we talk about how our position, what I consider society is I've always talked about the selling a Harley Davidson. This is not something that someone needs. People need groceries, they need medicine, they need clothing, they need shelter. Mm-hmm. But we do need these things. So when we talk about society now, that you got people who are sitting inside all day on that keyboard, can't do nothing but watch that news feed, can't do nothing but look at that iPad. What do we all crave? We crave human interaction.
Oh, absolutely.
We crave visceral experiences. So what do I really sell down there? I sell human interaction and visceral experiences. So we try to constantly yes, I'm part of the internet. We have a social media presence on there. People research things online before they buy. It's not just a matter of coming into the dealership. But what we try to do when they're there is really talk about how a motorcycle can enhance your life, because one thing that you are not doing while you're out riding that motorcycle is clicking and scrolling.
Right. Yeah, you can't.
We always talk about the old man laying on his deathbed and thinking back and looking back through his life. I get real sad when I think about the guy who was laying on his deathbed looking back and thinking about all the pages he clicked and all the scrolling he did and all the trolling he did and all this bullshit he did. Mm-hmm. That's not what you want. It's not what you want. It's been raining like a son of a bitch here lately. So we have a 5-minute huddle every morning before we open up. And I came in there one day, and it was like on day 5 of 38 and rain.
Oh, yeah.
I said to anybody, I said, who here remembers the worst weather they ever rode in? Like 4 or 5 hands went up, and they talked about it, and they could talk vividly about where they were, what they were doing, what the circumstance was. Rico, do you remember the worst weather you ever rode in?
Absolutely.
Where were you?
Here, Jackson.
Tell me about it.
It's back when I was in the club. I had an old pickup truck, and at the time I left my motorcycle at the clubhouse. So my normal routine, I'd get off work and go to the clubhouse, have some beers, go home. I was staying in tune at the time. So had an old pickup, got ready to leave the clubhouse. My headlight switch wouldn't work. Can't go get a part because it's like almost midnight. It's like 40 degrees outside. I didn't have any gear with me. So Eva looked at me and said, well, you better go get your horse. I said, damn, I ain't got no choice. So I had on like a hoodie, some work gloves. 40 degrees on a motorcycle, it feels the same as 20 degrees. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I can deal with rain pretty good.
All right, now pause. Tell me the best weather you ever rode in.
Seattle, Washington, up and down the coastline in summertime.
Okay, let me point out a difference in there. When I asked him about the worst, he could tell me what day it was. He told me what he was wearing. He talked about the people he interacted with. He talked the story of it. When I asked him about the best, he painted a big, broad picture of a certain place during a certain time period. Mm-hmm. The point of it being, and that's what I told him in there, I said, you want to connect with people in any way that you can. There are great experiences to be had in terrible circumstances. 38 degrees and rain sucks. It sucks ass, but it builds a visceral experience, because I can tell you the coldest day I ever rode was not this past October, but the October prior to that. I left out of Eureka Springs, Arkansas about 8 o'clock in the morning, riding back to Jackson, Tennessee. Started raining about Harrison, Arkansas. By the time I crossed and I've got good ass gear, man. We live in a great age of technology on a motorcycle that you never should be cold or wet. But if you spend enough miles out there, you will have one little collar of your shirt stick up, and it'll wick a little bit of water. And by the time that it reached the small of my back, was on 412 between Dyersburg and Jackson, and that's about the time that my teeth started chattering. But I was wiping sleet off my glasses. It was a cold son of a bitch. I can tell you every detail of it, but I've ridden on so many beautiful days, I can't tell you any detail of it. What experiences are we building into our lives?
Yeah, man. That's big. That's huge.
Yeah.
I don't sell motorcycles.
Well, it's the same thing as like, I think that the algorithms that drive Facebook and social media are the ones that drive you to the negative shit, right? Because that's what you want to react to.
I'm
right?
so fucking sick of seeing Bloomberg pop up, man.
No, that's what money will get you right there. That's not an algorithm. That's a credit card.
Yeah. And how many billions and billions of dollars he has. But no, but that's what it drives you to. It drives you to the negative shit, so you'll react to it. Because you see something funny, you might give the high, but you're not going to like respond and then. And here's another thing that the internet has done is like when you get in an argument, or even if you're just going in on your buddy, and then maybe he got the best of you, and then you're driving home a couple hours later, and you're like, man, I should have said this, I should have said, and then you're like, well, I can't. Well, Facebook allows you to
go back and say it,
and you shouldn't. You shouldn't do it.
I've been there.
But you go, oh, I got something now. 2 days later, these motherfuckers done moved on, and you're, hey,
a jerk store called and they're out of you.
By the way, and that's what I urge people. It's why I took a hiatus from social media. The only reason I'm back on now is to promote the podcast. But that's the reason I stepped away from it, because I was arguing with people on the internet.
Motherfuckers.
Why would you ever do that? It's a ridiculous thing to do.
Sometimes it's fun.
It is fun, but I was getting mad. I was getting big mad about stupid shit. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Yeah. So I got away from it, and it was almost instant how much happier I was. The next day, I was like, oh my God.
I keep reminding myself about the topics that I do talk about and topics I don't talk about.
Yep.
And I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, motorcycles, music, Cubs. Motorcycles, music, Cubs. motorcycles, music, Cubs.
Cheers to the Cubs,
And
by the
leave
way.
the rest of it alone.
So I don't want to hold you guys hostage on this Saturday night. So we'll cut
I'm
it.
just going to go home and fuck on Facebook. You know?
But
Yeah, we go all get on Facebook and
yeah,
start fucking with each
let's
other.
all talk shit to each
Yeah,
other.
let's
and-
talk shit.
Gay
But
dinosaurs.
so I was watching the Cubs Rangers preseason or spring training game.
Turned it off after the Grand Slam. What happened?
Well, I didn't. I only watched a very short period of it.
Did you see the Grand
I
Slam?
did not see that.
Fuck.
But what I did hear was announcer. What's his name?
Joe Buck.
No.
Buck Joe fuck.
Yeah. I fucking hate Joe Fuck. Shit. I can't think of the announcer, but the announcer low key roasted the shit out of the Astros, and it was Cubs Cubs and
yeah,
Rangers,
yeah.
and he said, I was going to tell the Astros guys to put on some headphones that way they would drown out the booze, but they wouldn't be able to hear the trash cans. And I was like, oh shit!
I'm loving seeing all the. And listen, the Astros,
It's going to be a long year.
fuck them, man.
Oh, man.
Listen,
Look.
and I hate it for the guys that are out there, but they are part of a tainted ass organization right now.
Here's the thing
baseball
about
is the last. Is one of the last pure things in the world, and that's why I hate seeing cheating happen.
Well, I'd love to hear your perspective on this, and I don't know if are you a baseball fan, Rico?
I like it. I'm not a fan, but
It is to me the most amazing shit on earth. Like, I love baseball. I fucking love it. I haven't talked about it on the podcast much, so I'm getting excited here. But
Everything beautiful about the. It's everything beautiful in society. is
I
baseball.
love it. Yeah. So, the steroid stuff. Okay, you're trying to get an advantage. I get it. I'm not a fan, but it is what it is. It's going to happen. Throwing some pine tar on the ball, putting it on behind that's been happening since the beginning of fucking baseball. Spitting on a ball, whatever it is, right? Trying to get that advantage, right? But what the Astros did, and when I first heard about it, I thought, oh, they're just trying to steal signs. They fundamentally changed the game. Like, for those that don't know, in Major League Baseball, pitching is one of the most insane fucking things you can do. Like, I'm so obsessed with it that when I watch a game, some people can watch a game and go, this is boring. And I'm like, this is amazing.
I've had that argument a million times. People say baseball's boring. I said, you don't get it.
Yeah.
Baseball to me, I sit on the edge of my seat watching a baseball game. Yeah.
And so when you know, as a Major League Baseball player, when an off-speed pitch is coming to you, that's it. You're going to rip that son of a bitch into outer space.
what's the difference in them stealing signs and the Patriots having lip readers?
No, it's the same thing. I do think it's the same
It
thing.
is the same thing. But
I do
here's,
think
but
it's
here's the
same thing.
difference. Since the beginning of baseball, as a catcher, you always had to be careful when the other team had somebody on second base because it's easy to see the sign at that point. You have to watch
And
it.
that's the thing
and that's not what we're talking about.
No, I'm okay with that because it's part of it.
What we're talking about is a closed circuit camera sitting in the outfield, radioing a signal back to a dude sitting in the dugout who is watching the sign and then tapping out.
Kind of like the guys in casino cheating at the
Bingo.
Yes.
Exact same thing.
Because here's the thing, for those listening that don't know about baseball, so you have what's called a fastball, which is your straightforward
Throwing a pitch straight down the thing.
down the middle. And the term fastball doesn't necessarily refer to the velocity, but it is the fastest.
Just means there's no English on the ball.
Exactly. It's straight down the pipe. That's it. Fastball. The reason that the off-speed pitch was invented was it looks like coming out of the hand of the pitcher like a fastball, but it comes
It comes in about a half a second.
significantly slower.
And a half a second is an hour and a half in baseball.
Yes. So to know that's about to happen it's the biggest thing you can know in baseball. Because you can wait for your pitch. You can literally just go, all right, I got this. And
If
when
you
it
ever
comes,
played baseball on the Nintendo when I was a kid, what was the one pitch you loved to throw? Which is the one where you jerk it real hard and it was like went out and it turned real hard
Yeah,
like
yeah.
this. That's what an off-speed pitch is like. There's a documentary out called Fastball.
It's great.
Okay, you've
It's
seen it.
Oh, yeah,
You've
it's
seen
amazing.
it. Even if you don't love baseball, you ought to watch it. And the premise of it is who threw the fastest pitch in Major League Baseball. But it talks about fastballs, and they're talking about it on a average Major League fastball, which is going to be 95 miles an hour. Your reaction time from the time that ball leaves the fingers of the pitcher till it hits the catcher's glove is you've almost got to be committed to swinging it when that ball's no more than a foot out of that pitcher's hand.
It's like
So-
0.4 of a second.
You're
or something.
throwing something that looks like a fastball, but it's actually an off-speed pitch. That some pitch is real damn hard to hit.
Yep.
But again, that's to your point.
That's why you see.
Yeah.
That's why you see batters buckle. They'll do that. Like,
And I'm not going to tell you who threw because the movie's so good.
Oh,
I'm
man.
not going to tell you who threw the fastest.
yeah.
pitch.
Anyone listening needs to go watch. It's a documentary called Fastball. I think it's on Amazon Prime for sure.
It's on Netflix too.
And Netflix. It's just called Fastball. It's a fucking great documentary, and you see the science behind it, and it just it blows my mind.
But it
to this
carries
day.
you through the greatest pitchers of all time.
Oh yeah, dude.
Bob Gibson,
Goose Gossage.
Nolan Ryan, Greg Maddux, all of them.
Maddox, man. He was a Cub, by the way.
He'll always be a Cub.
Right.
Hey, Braves fans, suck it.
You know, I'm going to say this, and I know there's a lot of Braves fans, and I know I have a lot of friends that are Braves fans. That it drives me crazy. It's the dumbest thing you can do, and I hate it. And I'm
Indian fan, I hope you're hearing this too.
It's the only thing I hate about them.
Chiefs fan, I hope
In my
you're hearing
mind,
this.
I'm like, I want to kind of. So I went to see the Cardinals and the Braves a couple of years back because when you go to around here, going to a Cardinals game is pretty much the closest major league game you can go to.
That's typically where I get to see the
And
Cubs.
the way that it worked out, I couldn't go see them play the Cubs there. Was like, they're playing the Braves. That'll still be a fun time. But I almost wanted to root for the Cardinals, which is, I know, blasphemy as a Cubs fan. But I was like, I hate that
I'm
damn.
going to pretend I didn't hear you say
That
that.
tomahawk chop thing, I hate it so much. But what was really cool is I haven't been to a major league game in a while, and I used to get up to Chicago periodically just to go.
Have you been since they've redone the stadium?
I haven't. I want to. So yeah, I plan on going this
Wrigleyville
season, so.
itself around there with all the new shops and stuff sucks.
Suck it easy.
Also, why in the hell are bleacher seats so expensive now? You look.
That used to be the bleacher bums is where the folks who
Look,
couldn't afford the good tickets
This
sat.
is seriously within a few years. You could go for still $15 to $30 and sit in the bleachers at Wrigley Field. And now
$100.
Depending on who's playing, but
$100
$100
in the bleachers.
if they're playing the Cards or the
If you catch them on a Tuesday afternoon or something,
Yeah.
and they're playing the Padres, $75.
right, and that's where I want to sit. I want to sit in those seats, but it's like damn man, I used to be able to go there for
I'd rather sit in the bleachers than way back under the mezzanine
sure.
because you want back under the mezzanine, you lose it.
Plus, you're going to party in the bleachers.
Well,
like you're going to party up there. Like
I
it ain't
was-
going to be no.
I was at Game 3 of the 2016 World Series.
I cried when that happened. By the way,
Well, we lost that game, but it was still a great
Sure.
experience. But we're up under the mezzanine. But I'm going to tell you this, though. I would rather catch a Wednesday afternoon game. This is going to sound stupid because I did actually go to a World Series game, and I'll never give anything for the experience. But when you're at a World Series game, you're not amongst fans. You're amongst the people that can afford a World Series ticket, which, by the way, I wasn't one of them. I was able to luck into one of them because I've got a mutual friend who happens to have a company that has a contract with Major League Baseball.
and I need
ended up with some
everyone.
tickets.
I need everyone hearing this to understand that if you are those people, you're the worst
They are the worst.
because you're making every event expensive.
Let
as
me
shit.
tell you who was sitting near me at this game. We were way down, about halfway between the left fielder and the third baseman, under the mezzanine. My brother and I went. We found out 24 hours prior to the game that I had the tickets.
Nice.
Like I said, I've got this friend who's got a company who makes licensed gear that they've got a license through MLB, and I'd been telling him all along, ever since about 2014. I said, "My Cubs are coming on. My Cubs are coming on.
Yeah, man.
We're looking good. If it's ever going to happen in my lifetime, it's going to happen in the next 3 years. If it doesn't happen in the next 3 to 5 years, it's not going to happen in my lifetime, blah, blah, blah." And I said, when it does happen, because he told me that they get World Series tickets. I said, when it happens, he goes, when it happens, I got you. When it happens, I got you. 2016 comes along, and by God, we're in the World Series, okay? And this, as a Cub fan, this is, this. I'm not going to talk about Jesus coming back, but it's up there.
It's
okay?
unbelievable.
It's up there.
It's
up there. It's up there.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it was.
So, the first two games are played in Cleveland, and then Game 3 is going to be in Chicago. And the day there, of course, there's an off day in between game 2 and game 3, and I'm at the store, and my phone rings, and I look down, and it's Chris Talley, and I answer the phone, and I said, "Are you serious?" And he goes, "Can you be there?" I said, "Can you give me 15 minutes and hang on?"
I got to
and
sort
I'll
some
call
shit
you
out.
back. So, first off, This guy is a mutual friend with my brother Tom, who is also a huge Cub fan. My wife is a Cub fan, who was born and raised in Jackson, Tennessee, has been a Cub fan her entire life. People wonder how that is, but their ass lived out in the country, out south, and her daddy had a satellite, so they got WGN TV. That's why you're a Cub fan, right?
Yep.
WGN.
So
that's how so many,
I'd come home from school and watch afternoon games on
that's
WGN.
how so many folks out in the country around here are Cub fans, because they picked it up on the satellite. Mm-hmm. I called her and I said, I got good news, and I need you to understand something. She called me. I said, Chris Talley just called me. She goes, did he get you World Series tickets? I said, yes. I said, I've got to call Tom and offer him this other ticket first before you.
Right.
To my wife. And I said, I have to, because we are mutual friends. I have to do that. She goes, you do that. Do that. If he can't go, that's otherwise. So I call him, and he answers the phone. I said, what are you doing? And he's also, his wife is named Angie also, okay? Mm-hmm. He said, as soon as he said it, I remembered that she had just had some surgery. He says, Angie just came out of surgery. She's in recovery. We're going to be going home here in just a little while. I said, oh shit, that's right. She had her surgery, didn't he? He said, yeah. And he said, what's up? I said, can we be in Chicago in about 18 hours? I got World Series tickets. And he's talking about Angie, and he's got to take care of her. He's going to be off work for a couple of days. He goes, give me 5 minutes. And you can just hear him going, oh, fuck. And I hang up the phone, and I call Angie back, and I said, do me a favor. Get online right now. See if you can get me some flights out of Nashville that'll get us into Chicago in the morning. Find me a hotel somewhere near the airport that's workable. She calls me back like a minute later. She says, I can get you flights for $200 a piece round trip. There's an airport right there at O'Hare that's $185 at night. That's unheard of in Chicago.
Right.
Oh yeah,
that's unheard of.
And $200 round
so
trip.
He calls me
on that short of notice is
he calls me back, or I sent him a text. I said, I have flights where we can get out in the morning. The flights leave at 6 a.m. out of Nashville. We'll be in Chicago at 8 a.m. I've got a hotel there. We can check in early. There's flights the day after the game. We'll be back in before noon. And he calls me back a minute later. He goes, I said, well, he goes, I'll be at the airport. I said, what'd you do? He said, I'm sitting in the room with her right now. And she asked me, she said, what are you talking about? And he said, Scott's got World Series tickets, and I can be in Chicago tomorrow. And she says, go, I'll figure it out. He goes, you just had surgery. She says, we have children. They have a daughter that will take care of me. So,
I love that she's like, I'll figure it out. So that's true love right there.
We get up there, fly in, get to the hotel. We take the train going in, and just hang out down there. I got hung out with my buddy Chris Bernhardt, who you've never met, but you've met him on Facebook. Yeah. But we get it, and it's a sea of people out there. I mean, it's surreal seeing this many people there.
Yeah,
and they've never felt that. There's no one alive hardly that has been to a Cubs World Series game that's not just walking around with a cane and a walker now. It's been that long.
Right.
But when we get inside, these are not the people that you see at a Cubs game, because
right.
These are all corporate tickets. And yes, we were on a corporate ticket, but we happened to be Cubs fans while we were there. So I'm there, and I got some media people around me, and there's a bunch of people who were high-end bankers and stuff. Most of the high-end bankers were closer down to the infield than we were. Most people out by us were vendors. But I was in a line of a bunch of former AA and AAA baseball players.
Nice.
Okay. And one of them asks me, he said, where are you from? I said, I'm from Jackson, Tennessee. He goes, Jackson, Tennessee. He goes, been to Jackson, Tennessee. I said, really? So he said, I used to play with the Montgomery Biscuits. I said, oh yeah, you come in town, and all that, and we talking. But listening to these pissed off AA ball players who are doing nothing but backseat driving these guys who were playing in the fucking World Series. Oh, that's a bullshit. That guy sucks. Like, motherfucker's finna have a ring. One's going to be bigger than the other, but he's playing in the World Series right now, and you're throwing shade on him.
Yep.
But we're up there talking and all this, and I look over, and there's this guy walking up here that I recognize, and I'm trying to make heads or tails of it. I look up and I go, it's fucking Mark Pryor.
Nice.
Mark Pryor's walking up there because he played AA ball with some of these other guys, and he knew him through the whole organization. Mark Pryor he played for the Diamond Jacks here for a while. Ended up becoming a Cub and played 3 or 4 years as a pitcher with the Cub. Great ball player. And he's like this much taller than me. I got pictures I'll have to show you after this is all said and done. And I look up at him and I said, Mark, and he's like, yeah, man. I said, man, I shake his hand. I said, it's a pleasure meeting you. I said, by the way, I've been a Cub fan for my entire life, and this is huge. And he goes, man, this is great. I said, by the way, I saw you pitch for the West Tennessee Diamond Jacks a bunch of times. He goes, are you serious?
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I've lived in Jackson, Tennessee. He's like, oh, I've lived in Post House North,
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's awesome, man.
So, but that's my World Series story right
that's
there.
Awesome.
And we lost the game, but what an unbelievable experience. Trying to leave the stadium was like, you ever seen the Warriors?
Oh, yeah.
You know, the Warriors, the old movie about the gangs in New York.
Warriors.
That's what Tom and I come out and play. Yeah. That's what Tom and I were like trying to get to the damn train. We ended up because the trains are running from the north to Wrigley, and then it wraps around heading back out towards O'Hare, and there's just a billion people down there.
Oh yeah.
So we ended up running like 8 blocks north into Chicago through all the alleys and stuff to get to one of the stations north of Wrigley so we could get on the damn train and brace ourselves into the corner so we didn't get crushed to death trying to go through there.
Yeah.
But once again, going back to my story earlier, experiences. All these people say, well, I can see it better on television at home. You don't get, when you're sitting at home, you don't get to meet Mark Pryor in the stands. You don't get to talk about Post House North. You don't get to run like the Warriors in the through the streets of Chicago trying to catch a fucking train.
People will do that all the time, and I tell people that all the time. Even going to a damn Titans game.
Yeah.
And they leave early because we got to beat traffic. I'm like, no,
Fuck that traffic.
You don't have to beat traffic. Just stay and hang out and watch the game and have a story, and because you never know what's going to happen. You know, one of my best friends in the world, I'm going to have him on the show at some point. He always used to tell me, and I use this as my mantra in this life, is you got to be in it for the story. You have to be.
If you don't have stories, you ain't got shit, man.
How many times have everybody in this room been in some weird ass situation, and at the time you're like, this is fucked up, but then later, maybe a month, might be years, you go,
pay attention to
that
it.
shit was funny, and you tell the story.
Yeah.
You need those stories.
You know what the worst color is in the world? Beige.
Right.
Beige.
Beige. Nobody wants to be fucking beige.
Yep.
If you don't have stories, you're beige.
I want to
Your
be
life
purple
is
as
beige.
fuck.
I want to be paisley.
Paisley. Oh shit.
Wow.
I know some beige motherfuckers.
Oh, we all do.
And it sucks for them, doesn't
What
it?
color would you want to be?
Me?
This sounds like some racist shit.
Obviously, you don't want to be what you are.
Shit, I love being black. No, I probably want to be
Imagine Rico if he was white.
Dominican.
No, I mean like you're no, not what race. Not what ethnicity.
That was my bad joke.
Did you see Rico trying to pick out a tuxedo the other day?
Oh,
what were you getting dressed up for?
Hey, when I say, hey, I told you purple, that middle one, that light purple in the middle, that was my shit.
I saw who commented.
No.
Lolita said no.
No.
That was my shit.
Boundaries.
Oh man.
So, but what color's your aura, your energy?
Probably purple.
That's me,
Yeah.
Lolita.
Red.
Red. She looked at Rico.
I'm just saying.
Orange and black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You said I like paisley. You said paisley.
Paisley. My point being is if you ain't interesting, you ain't shit.
Yeah.
And people they're not born interesting. They're not.
No.
They're not.
No,
They're not
no,
born
no, no,
interesting.
no.
You are, everyone's life is a makeup of the experiences that they've had.
Well,
So
I
if
used to
you-
tell people.
You got to go get some.
Well, I used to tell people that like I'm I'm a magnet for awkward shit, and I used to think of it as a bad thing. But then one day I was like, you know what? I've got a lot of funny ass stories, a lot of fun times because of that. Because just weird ass people or weird situations, and sometimes it was because of what I was doing, but a lot of times it was like it just gravitated to me, and I'm like, why is this happening to me?
Dude, that's my business.
Yeah.
That is my business right there.
I can only
There used
imagine.
to be, we used to sell Easy Rider magazine, a lot of them. You know, magazines, they don't. Nobody does anything with magazines anymore.
You can look it
But we used to
online.
sell Easy Rider magazines all the time, and Easy Rider magazines were made up of some articles about motorcycles, a couple of centerfolds, a section of jokes, but there was one piece of it called In the Wind. And In the Wind was about 4 or 5 pages worth of reader-submitted pictures of biker lifestyle, biker shit. Show me your titty pictures, choppers, whatever else kind of stuff. And there'd be like 3 or 4. Of course, you had a centerfold with a girl in it, and you had a couple centerfolds with a custom bike in it. You know, it's same concept, you know. Mm-hmm. But then they started coming out with an In the Wind magazine in of itself, which was just a collection of all In the Wind stuff. So when you start looking through all of these things, and I love looking at In the Wind pictures, especially in older books, because I've been around biker culture since I was a little kid. Mm-hmm. Okay, my brothers were always bikers, and I've been in this business since it's the only real job I've ever had. And I'm working in there when I was 14 years old. And that kind of stuff carries me back, so I can look at a bunch of bikers doing biker shit in a picture, and I can relate to it as I look at it. I go, God damn, that's a good time. I wish I was there, right there, right now. Yeah. I wish I was doing that and flip through, and there'll be some girl with her top pulled up, and there'll be some guy riding a motorcycle naked around there, and then there'll be somebody with a pyramid of cans, built up and blah blah blah. Some guy sleeping on a park bench with his motorcycle parked next to it, and then some guy doing this, and I'm loving it. Can you imagine pictures of people sitting around taking? If I took a picture of Rico right now while he's looking at his cell phone, and then post that to
that's hot.
In the internet,
that's hot.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine not? I can't imagine not having stories. Look at me. I'm getting excited talking about pictures.
Yeah.
Of real life and real shit happening. Y'all, there is exciting stuff going on outside.
Yeah, man. Just go out there and
get outside.
And people tell me sometimes, man, you got the craziest stories. I'm like, you don't? Why don't
you got to go get them.
You go do it.
You can't subscribe to it. It's not Columbia House ain't going to send you a bunch of fucking stories for a nickel.
Man, that's a throwback right there.
Columbia House.
That's how old I am.
Tape a penny to that fucking thing and
listen.
Never pay the rest of it.
They will send you a Hall & Oates CD for a nickel, but they're going to send you a Jane's Addiction for $19.
Yep, that's it. Okay. You got to cancel before that happens. You got to cancel.
Yep. But between Columbia House and Bank of America in college, that $500 limit credit card and a Columbia House membership cost me $100,000. That's what I really think across the course of time.
Oh man. Well, guys, I really appreciate you guys coming out.
This has been a great time.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. And I mean, we can talk forever, but I want you guys to come back, so I don't want to spend it all up.
We don't want to run out of shit to talk about. I got a bunch of shit.
I don't think we ever would, though. So, but yeah, everybody that's listening, go check out Bumpus Harley Davidson. I can't even talk. I didn't even have that much whiskey. Bumpus Harley Davidson in Jackson, Tennessee. Get you a motorcycle. You can ride around.
Or 2 or 3.
And I need to come down there.
Listen, we do a riding. We do it's called Harley Davidson Riding Academy. Mm-hmm. Not everybody. Motorcycles appeal to. I think there's a stat out there that says 4% of the population will ever own a motorcycle of any type. And then, so if you figure that 4% ever will, that means probably 2.5% will ever own a Harley. Not everybody does it, but something that everybody can experience is come down and learn how to ride a motorcycle.
Well, I can
$250. Come down. I provide the bike. $250. Get yourself a helmet. Get yourself some gloves, and get yourself some boots and something to come over your sleeve. And come down. It's a weekend class. We'll teach you how to ride a motorcycle, and we will change your damn life.
Yep. Well, I can say that I do know how, and I've owned motorcycles before. And I still have my. If you look at my license, it says
you got your DM on there.
Oh yeah. Oh boy. And but this was something I was going to bring up earlier. I'm going to throw this in there before we wrap it up. But I did the thing where I was like, I'm gonna buy a crotch rocket. And guys, let me tell you something. And I'm just gonna be real. If you're a fat dude,
yeah,
you don't need a crotch rocket because here's the thing. It might be fun because I had fun. It was fun, but it don't look good.
Or Sportster.
I don't want to say that because this man's trying to sell those.
But hang on, here's what's funny about it. I've been a fat dude since I was 6 years old. Okay, the day I met my wife, I was riding a Buell, which is a sport bike at the time. Oh, yeah. The day I met her, and I'll tell this story real quick. She was a radio ad rep for back in the old days. It was Power 92, the old radio station, and we did we used to do a big poker run that we would co-sponsor with them for the CF Foundation. And I'd do the whole thing with them. So, and they would have their people out staffing the stops. So I'm making this ride through. I go out and ride on it, and I stop up at the Oasis in Atwood. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Right there on the county line. And remember what it said on the wall? Coldest beer on earth.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
At the Oasis gas station right there at the Gibson Carroll County line in Atwood. I came through there, and I'm going to change a couple of names to protect the innocent. I was about 2 months into a divorce, so I'm running single at this time, and there was someone who was working out there that I had in my sights. Okay, come through, and I say, I'm gonna make a pass back through here at the end. You want me to pick you up? And she says, yeah, pick me up, and we'll ride. I said, hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's
the
Game
move
on.
right there. That's
so
the move, yeah.
Come back through, and I'm going to make the last sweeping round on this poker run route and make sure everybody else had finished it because the thing was going to end at Cody's. So I come back through, and I show up back at the Oasis, and I walked up, and Angie's there, and I said, where is such and such? And I had never met her before. I knew who she was. She worked for a radio station. She wasn't my rep. I said, where is such and such? And she said, well, such and such, another guy had just come through there who was a good friend of mine. I ain't gonna call him out like this on it. He said, he came through about 10 minutes ago and picked her up. I said, motherfucker. Motherfucker. And I looked at her and I said, have you got a ride? And she goes, no. She said, I actually rode out here with her and I was trying to figure out how I was going to go get home. I said, you want to ride? She goes, yeah. She get off my back and I'm riding a Buell, which is, I don't know if you're familiar with Buell sport bikes. There was a subsidiary company of Harley's. She gets on the back of it. So, and any guy who gets
real quick, Ashley, he had a Buell.
Yeah.
And that's what I kind of learned.
Okay, so and Ashley, that was back in the old days, back when there were tube frame bikes. That's what I had too.
Okay.
Not the ones that look like the real crotch rockets are now, but the ones that were Street Fighter bikes.
Yeah.
Cool. Damn, I miss them.
So I actually learned to kind of ride.
You get a girl on the back of new motorcycle, and you're gonna show off a little bit. It's what guys do, and she'll still tell it to these days that she had known me for about 30 minutes at this time, and I'm cross over the interstate heading towards Cody's, coming down the bypass, running about 130 mile an hour. Oh, that son of a bitch. It just getting it. And if you cross the interstate at 130 mile an hour and you're going to hang a right into Cody's, you're hard on the brakes. And what does a guy sitting on the front do when you got a girl on the back? Tap the brakes.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you do. But that's where I met my wife, was out riding sport bikes that night. First Harley was a Sportster too, though.
Man.
Big boys can ride a Sportster.
They can, but it
Let me tell you a story about my brother Dan. Of course, Rico knew my oldest brother Dan that's passed away now. You want to talk about stories? The greatest stories in the world lived with Dan Bumpus. We had a guy come in one day, and Harley has a model called Fat Boy.
Oh yeah,
right. So guy comes in one day and he asks the question. He says, "We got a motorcycle for a portly gentleman?" So he shows him a Fat Boy, right? But that wasn't the best story. Guy comes in. And he starts looking at a Sportster. And Dan usually didn't work the sales floor very much. He kind of just hung out. He was more of the soul of the store.
He didn't work the phones long either.
He worked the phones a lot. I ain't sure I can tell that story, but I can. Lady calls in one day. And she's inquiring about a helmet for her child. Mm-hmm. She's not a master of the English language, so she says, "How much is a helmet for a little head?" He says, "Fuck, lady, they're free."
We can make that deal right now.
But this guy comes in and he's sitting on a Sportster and Dan's talking to him out there, and he says, "I like this bike." Dan said, "Yeah, I had a Sportster a long time ago too, and they've been making Sportsters since the 50s, blah, 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 blah." He says, Can you tour on a Sportster? Dan says, "Well, it's a lot like fucking a gorilla." And I'm listening. And the guy says, "What?" He goes, "It's okay if you're bad enough, but if you're not, it'll hurt you real bad."
That's great. That is great.
Gotta have stories.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, so, I'm just saying, fat guy on a sports bike, it's just not a good look. because I was the guy. I was that guy.
Fuck them people that don't think you look good though.
So, but yeah, you guys do when the weather's nice. You guys do some music out there.
We have bands out there.
Feed
and stuff.
everybody.
There's always fun stuff going on at the Harley
Absolutely.
store.
So, go check out Bumpus Harley Davidson.
Yeah, man.
Get you a motorcycle. Listen to some music out there. And like I said, I don't know when this will come out. But
Go get stories.
It'll definitely go get some stories. And Rico, Lolita, I appreciate you guys coming out.
Appreciate it, man.
Yep. And everybody go check us out on social media. You can find it at the McRADcast.
Click like, click share. Click like, click share.
Like, share the McRADcast on Facebook, Twitter. I haven't done much with the Twitter, but Instagram, and we're doing the YouTube because we do plan on doing actual videos at some point.
Nice.
But like I said, I don't know what's going to happen with this. But yeah, appreciate you guys listening, and always remember to stay rad.